Good evening. I'd like to call to order the February 3rd public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Zachary Greco, Chair of the Commission. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plans, elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. Staff will then present the staff report. We will then ask the public for comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak either for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for a rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. Commissioners will then discuss the case and will make the decision based upon the City Ordinance, Chapter 27 of the City Zoning Code, Design Guidelines, the Secretary of the Interior Standards, the Historic Preservation Development Review, HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibilities. Owners, agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. Introductions of the commissioners will begin starting on my right.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Sutton. I'm a registered architect. I hold the architectural historian chair.
Shauna Boyd, interior designer.
Ashley DeCubis, I'm an attorney.
Tamara Rice, architect.
We are also included here tonight with the staff: Dennis Fernandez, Ron Vila, Elaine Lund, Beverly Jewisak, and Senior Assistant City Attorney Kate Wells. I'd like to see if there's a motion to approve the reading of the minutes for January 6th and January 8th.
I move that this board approve the meeting minutes for the ARC public hearing held on Monday, January 6th, 2020, and on Wednesday, January 8th, 2020, as posted.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Welcome to this evening's public hearing. Just a couple brief points. Do have the ARC staff reviews that we will be adding into the record for January last month. You also have those included in your packets. Those do become part of the record for tonight's hearing. Additionally, within your staff reports, you'll notice that there's a few additional pages that have been added to your staff reports. That's the application that the applicants submit when they meet our hearing deadline. We've added those in so they can be made part of the record. And then also for variance cases, when we do have a variance on the agenda, the planner who is presenting the case will be offering the notice documents for the variance to you. You'll have to accept those into the record as well for that evening, and that's specific to the variance case and the notification documents that we received from the staff. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. With that, we will move on to the conflicts of interest ex parte communication. Kate Wells will handle that for us.
Thank you, Dennis. Now's the time in our meeting where if you have any conflicts of interest, those would need to be disclosed on the record, and it would be as it pertains to any of the items that are scheduled for consideration this evening. I see none. And if you've had any ex parte communications, that would include any verbal communications with anybody with regard to items on the agenda, or if you have received any written communications. Thank you.
And just before Ron comes up for the continuations, I do want to let you know we are handling our January case cycle at tonight's public hearing. So we will not be holding a public hearing on February the 5th, Wednesday. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Avila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Under continuations, we have two on the agenda. We're going to need separate motions for these. The first one is ARC 20-18 for the address of 2006 West Deco Avenue, and that's being continued to a future date. And as part of that continuation, there will be a reposting of the property when it's going to come forward. If we could get a motion for that one, please.
I move that ARC 20-18 for the address of 2006 West Deco Avenue be continued to a future public hearing.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And the second continuation is ARC 19-298 for the address of 506 East Mohawk Avenue. And that was requested by the agent to be continued to the March 2nd, 2020 public hearing at 6 p.m.
I also move that ARC 19-298 for the address of 506 East Mohawk Avenue be continued to the meeting scheduled for March 2, 2020.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
At this time, we're ready for the swear-in. Everybody that wishes to testify, please stand up and raise your right hand. Ms. Juzak will swear us in. And the first case that we'll hear tonight is ARC 20-80. This is for the address of 717 South Brevard Avenue. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District. This is a non-contributing structure that was constructed in 2007. The zoning classification is RS60. The request is for a new construction. They're going to do a rooftop pergola, a shade element, and some storage. Moving to the photo presentation. You see the north arrow over here is up. The property in 1929 was unoccupied. They didn't have a structure there. Since then, when it came forward in 2007, there was a non-contributing structure there. That was a post-war building that was removed as part of the approval of the structure that you'll see tonight. The structure does face Boulevard, which runs north and south. There is no alley to the rear of the property, and you have Fielding as a cross street towards the south, and then this is Bayshore Boulevard. To the north, you have Swan as a reference point. This is looking from above. Property in question is in the green box. Once again, on Boulevard, you have Swan on the top. You see Bayshore Boulevard here. Series of contributing structures that surround the property, and then you have condos to the east, and those are non-contributing complex. This is the non-contributing structure that was approved by this board in 2007. The focal point is going to be up here. Just to get you familiar with the property, this is looking down the drive aisle through the porte cochere to the accessory structure in the rear. This is looking at the front facade and the northern face of the building. You see the porte cochere here. This is the southern exposure and a piece of the front facade. See a clipping of the top, how it terminates currently. And just a different perspective of that here. And then you have a contributing period structure to the south. It's a craftsman style home to the north. So directly across the street, see a couple of the non-contributing condos. This is looking down Boulevard to the south. See Bayshore and then water behind it. And then to conclude, this is in the other direction. This is Boulevard looking back towards Swan. At this time, Mr. Keener will address the board.
Good evening. My name is John Keener. I'm here for case 20-80, property at 717 South Brevard Avenue. I am an architect acting as agent for the owners, Jeff and Kathy Watson. As you can see, and Ron had just presented, this is our subject property located on Brevard Avenue. What's important on the siting of this house is the views to the southeast to Bayshore Boulevard. And then one of the unique aspects of this home, since it is essentially a three-story structure, is that there are potential for views to downtown to the north. So my clients purchased this home about 6 or 7 years ago. And we started working with them in 2017 with the intent of trying to find some purpose for this rooftop terrace. They have this great house. The house was poorly designed. I don't think today, if we came before the board to present this house to the board, it would get accepted. It's grossly out of scale for the neighborhood. It doesn't, quite honestly, meet the criteria for what I would call a Mediterranean revival home. And it exceeds the surface ratio of impervious to pervious surfaces. Nothing about this home would be accepted today. So we recognize that. What we're trying to do is they've hired me to kind of make some sense out of it. In 2017, we started with some major redesign of floor plans, looking from first floor, second floor, rooftop terrace, considered ways of opening up the windows so we could actually take advantage of the views and address the street. A lot of that became price prohibitive. So in lieu of that, what we did is we really focused this project down to start with what makes the most sense. And they wanted to capitalize on this unique feature of this home, which is the rooftop terrace. These images show supporting what Ron had shown us at too, but you can kind of see in this panoramic shot on the top, that is the space right now. Southern exposure, gets a ton of sunlight, there's no shade, there's no protection, and consequently we've had a lot of water intrusion over the years. And so in the midst of what we're proposing today, a big portion of this is to remove the existing surfaces and detail and design this rooftop deck so it doesn't provide further water infiltration issues. So that's all part of the scope of this. So there's a lot to it. And as we are looking at this plan, we do have sort of a long-range goal to attack the exterior of this house in smaller pieces. Things like removal of this sort of precast piece of decorative or a decorative element. I think that's something we're proposing to remove in this phase, but as we'll show some elevation studies of what we've done down the road to hopefully, in the long-term goal is to make this actually feel like a Mediterranean revival home, give it a little more personality and a little more style so it feels a part of the neighborhood. These are just some examples of kind of the ceiling issues we've been having, not only from just an insulation, but just a poor lack of detail. So there's a lot of issues that we're going to remedy in the grand scheme of this, but as Ron showed, this is the property to the north. It's a two-story craftsman house. Property to the south has a little more scale to it, but it's also a two-story home. The townhouse is across the street. This is essentially the rooftop terrace as it stands now. We have an existing conditioned space. There's a staircase, elevator, and basically an open room. It's about 507 square feet conditioned. We are proposing to add a rear addition, which would include a bathroom, a storage area so we can take cushions and furniture off the deck in summer storms, put it in a secure area in a small grill area. And then we're also proposing about a 484 square foot pergola structure on top of the roof deck to provide some shade and cover during inclement weather. This is an aerial perspective of the intent of our design. You can see the portion in white is the flat roof portion we're proposing. One of the other things to note, in the original application, we had proposed to continue the hip roof around to the rear portion, but this home was built above the maximum allowable building height. So the top of the peaked roof is about close to 38 feet. We need to be at 35 feet or below. So The request, when we decided to do this as a hip roof to blend in with the original roof, would have triggered a variance. We went down that path and we decided, because of scale, simplicity, and many other things, that it was better to come before you without any variance requests. So that's why there is a different roof type of element, but it also brings the scale down, reduces the need for a variance, and saves my client some cost. These are the areas on the rooftop conditioned area that we're proposing to demo. As I mentioned, we wanted to open up a portion of the wall so we can we can capitalize on the views to the north to downtown Tampa. The portion at the bottom would be to allow for a bifold opening door system, and then this portion would to allow for the access to the bathroom. That's our proposed floor plan. Basically reorienting the interior spaces, but opening up some windows to the north, a bifold door system, and then the covered pergola would be over this area. We're proposing a artificial turf in some areas, and then just a paver grill area. That's the existing roof plan and the proposed roof plan with the pergola structure. The front elevation as it stands today, one of the things in Mediterranean homes, it's generally, it's not a symmetrical home. Oftentimes it is, but a lot of times there's local symmetry about the facade. In this case, there's really, outside of the tower and some symmetry about the first two levels, there's really no local symmetry or anything that really gives definition to why the means and methods of the design for the parapet walls. So we are proposing to clean that up a little bit. As I mentioned, we're proposing a pergola structure that's partially open with some louvered elements on the front. And then we would reorient the parapet walls to better align with the existing openings and the symmetry of the first two floors. So I think just that alone helps clean up the proportions a little bit of this home. And then we're proposing off of that block wall to continue the aluminum structure that will be the pergola. As I mentioned again, you can see the top of the peak is higher than the allowable building line. The allowable building line is this dashed line. So our pergola structure is below that line. Here's an example. I told you we're considering sort of a master plan of how we could clean up the elevation. So on the left is sort of the phase that we're proposing to get certificate appropriateness for today. The portion to the right is showing how we're talking about changing and modifying the entry element and make something that fits a little better scale, and adding a window to just open up that front. Not major changes, but I think it cleans up the look of this home. Again, that's not part of what we're proposing today, but I wanted to show, I thought it was important to show that we are looking for a long-term solution to this home. Here's a 3D rendering of what we propose the front of that to look like. The side elevation, this is the porte-cochere side, so the north side of the house as it stands today. And then we're proposing the new ribbon windows. They will be an aluminum clad wood window to match the existing windows of the house. Views of the existing inside of the third floor space and how we're intending to redesign that space. And this is the existing west elevation, or west side of the home. Very flat and not a lot of architecture going on there. But that's how it's shown in elevation today. This is how it will look with our proposed addition for the storage room and bathroom, and the 3D element of how, a 3D model of how that will look. You can see we've introduced a small overhang with a crown detail to just continue the stucco look, but provide a little bit of a drip edge so it doesn't streak the face of the house. That's existing conditions of how that corner looks today. This is the southern elevation of the home and how we're proposing the southern elevation to look. That's a rendering showing how we propose the rooftop to look today, or proposed rooftop. Building section showing how all of the elements come together. This canopy structure, and I'll have more details to show you, is actually an open system, but during a rainstorm it has the ability to close upon itself and create a rooftop or a watertight surface that can drain to an internal gutter system. So our hope is that the majority of the time, this louvered system will be open and be an open pergola, but it has a rain sensor on it, so when it does rain, it'll automatically close and provide the shelter that they need to keep water off of the deck. The bottom of that louvered structure would be about 8'10" from the deck of the rooftop. And this is a section cut through the bathroom storage area. So it has a lower ceiling, but you can see how we're pulling that roof element underneath the existing eave. That's a rendering showing how that'll look from the rooftop level, from the air looking down. The windows, as I mentioned, we're proposing is a Sierra Pacific aluminum clad wood window. I'm gonna borrow the sample here. This is actually the same window we're proposing, except this is all wood. We're looking at aluminum clad version of this. The exterior door would be an origin door. It's a bifold system. It would be painted to match the same as the exterior of the windows and doors now. The existing home has like a teal color exterior cladding. The top of the chimneys would have a clay chimney cap. This is the style we're proposing. And then the rooftop, flat rooftop membrane would just be a TPO white roof membrane system. The aluminum structure we were proposing, this is an example from their brochure, but you can see the system as it is in open capacity. This is how we're proposing that design to look when the louvers are open. This is an example of a similar system, not the same brand, but this is over on the Riverwalk in Tampa. You can see how it looks when the louver system is open. Here's a view when they're closed, and it's more of a flat roof, aluminum look. One of the comments in the HPDRC meeting was to study how the facade would look if we were to bring the trellis from the front wall back a little bit off of the facade. So this is an example of comparing how the two would look. There are many reasons we were requesting, one of the reasons we're requesting that the system sit on the exterior wall is for structural reasons. We have a wood framed roof system, and we know we're going to have to introduce some extra beam support to make this work. We're trying to mitigate as much of extra beams in this as we can. We've got a lot of work to do on the securing and waterproofing that we wanted to utilize as much of the existing structure as we can. So it makes a lot more sense to bear that on the masonry walls versus stepping it back and creating another beam condition. So this is comparative. On the right side is what would happen if we set that canopy structure a foot off of the block wall, and this is as it sits today in our proposal to sit on the block wall. I don't feel like it makes a drastic difference as far as the look and style of the house. So we're proposing to push that to the exterior wall as designed and not set back. I think that's everything in my presentation today. I do have, I have a copy of the brochure for the rooftop system. If you'd like, I can issue that into the record if anybody wants to see that, or we can, is that necessary?
I'll pass it over.
Okay. And I believe that concludes our presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, staff will present the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines. We had a couple conditions that were associated with this request to provide additional information with this rooftop system that he has. This is not something that we see on a monthly basis. So if you have additional questions, he brought the information so we could go over that. Staff's major concern was we understand the opportunity that they have and the views that they have in the location of the parcel. But with this additional height, it adds massing and scale to the structure that's already out of place with the environment that's around it. So we had asked the agent and the owner to revisit the location of the rooftop system to see if they could push it back from the front facade to make it as minimal as possible, the impact to the environment the existing environment. The other concerns that we had is that he provided a wall section that he did. He went through all the materials from the top all the way through the project. And having said that and putting that into the record, I'm here to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing to public comment. Seeing none, the commissioners will now ask questions, starting on my right.
Sir, I have 2 questions I'd like to direct towards you, please. First of all, I understand that what we're looking at are pretty much schematic design documents in many respects. And what I see there are proposals for your new doors and windows, which appear to be relatively monolithic in their appearance, as opposed to the more divided light window systems that are on the existing building. How do you square the two of those things together?
I agree that they're different. In this case, and outside of really my scope of work at this point, the homeowners were working separately with a window company on the front facade and were requesting to remove the divided light patterns on the front. That's something that they're doing outside of my scope. So in the proposal that I had done, having had that information, I went with the windows of what I think is going to be on the front of the house that don't have divided lights. So architecturally, though, I'd be happy to work with staff on something like that and provide them to match the rest of the house. My clients had asked me to show it without the divided lights in order to maximize the views.
Is it then your client's intention to eventually come by and renovate the remaining openings in this
think they're
building in a more
long-term.
monolithic scale? I do understand it's not part of your project, but I understand how you're trying to dovetail past, present, and future in this whole project together.
Yes, sir. I think eventually they're going to have to replace all the doors and windows. They are they're failing. All the openings are leaking right now. So I know they've spoken administratively with staff on the front windows, and I think eventually, over the next few years, they're going to have to replace all of them.
I'd like to ask an additional question, and this is directed towards your pergola structure.
Yes, sir.
Your design documents at this point appears to identify a structure that is very contemporary in its nature, particularly with respect to its rectangular cross members and relative details. The brochure has a variety of different design elements that are available as part of this system. Now, the question I have is really directed towards how does, if you will, this more contemporary pergola element square with the intent to improve the Mediterranean revival style of this dwelling?
I understand there is a contrast there. I think that when we step back and look the entirety of the scale of this house, it's a very large flat home. So I think that having the contemporary element there does blend in a sense that it's not a true Mediterranean home. It's obviously a newer construction. It's not a period appropriate piece. And even in the Secretary of Interior Standards, they ask us to provide a differentiation between new and old. Since we're not a historic home, and I think this house was built in the early 2000s, is that 2007? It is a more contemporary home. There isn't anything similar to this in Hyde Park that has a rooftop terrace that has this scale. And I think it does bridge that sort of divide between historic and contemporary. I think although this is a contemporary element, I think from its separation from the street, from the fact that I think when it's still viewed with the whole mass of the structure, I feel like it does have that more contemporary look, but a residential scale to it. So I don't feel like it's I don't think it's outside of the style of the home.
Thank you.
Could you pull just a floor plan of the
Sure.
house?
suppose I could look at my paper. Why don't I do that?
Maybe zoom in a little bit.
Would it be easier to do it on the screen?
No, this is fine. So I'm wondering, when staff requested that you explore moving the structure back, if exploration more than like a foot, more toward the rear of the home, the rear of the floor plan, had you explored that as well?
We had, the issue we have is with more so the way the existing space is configured. And this space proportionally is too skinny and long to really be a living room. There's not, the idea was to try and make this the room versus just this space. And so we are open to pulling this in, but we explored shifting this whole thing back, but it really makes the connection between inside and outside not as workable as what we were hoping for. So it didn't achieve the goals that my clients were really looking for. So we looked at pulling this a foot in. Obviously that's not a big gesture, but it does create a little bit of separation. The more we bring this entire structure over, it begins to just make the function and connection less workable.
I also have concern about the windows, but I think you've already addressed the question.
Okay.
So I'm all set.
No questions. The one of the staff report questions was that you bring some references to pergolas that are on historic Mediterranean structures and how they relate to the form that you've chosen. I agree with what Commissioner Sutton had said. When I saw it, I thought it looked really modern on a Mediterranean home. It's a really neat system. It just seems like there were opportunities of the detailing to make it fit a little bit more.
There, with the system we're using, there are,
Like
we have the
Rafter
possibility to
Tails
create
and, yeah.
scrolls and create more traditional details, and we'd certainly be open to exploring that.
Mhm.
We were looking to create a more contemporary environment on the rooftop deck, so that's why we simplified it a bit. I didn't find any examples of anything similar in the historic district. The
It's-
closest, I didn't bring any.
It seems like
examples.
even there's, I want to say it's like a law office at the end of Bayshore, like right before it goes to downtown, that has a very similar kind of looking building that has pergolas on it that are smaller, definitely, but
Yeah.
they're more, they look like they fit more with the building.
Yeah, and that's a better design building too, I'll admit. They do
Right, but
have some metal canopy structures on that that are more contemporary.
But I mean, I think their pergolas probably would, but
Mhm.
I think that there's opportunities to make the more modern pergola look more historically accurate
Mhm.
with just the little edge details that you really keep the same system, but maybe just tweak it to look a little bit less sharp.
We certainly would be open to that. It's not a deal breaker in our case. It's the beauty and why I like this system over other similar systems, that there is a little more flexibility with the design, and that we have the ability to control some of that.
And I think you'd keep the same system, just
Mhm.
modify the detailing a little bit. And then the setback. So it seems like when I first looked at it, I liked it a little bit better with the 1 foot setback, but I feel like that's such a minor setback that you're not really getting the benefit of setting it back. Is there any option to set it back like 2 feet? It looks like you would have to shift your doors over a little bit.
Yeah, there certainly is. And as I mentioned before, I mean, we can move it anywhere within this space.
Because it seems like it's set back on each edge 2'8", and then
It
the
is.
front, it's not set back at all. So it would be nice if the front was also set back a similar amount.
Yeah. And again, as I mentioned in the presentation, really the challenge is structure. Currently there's a large wood beam that comes across here that supports all of these floor joists.
Mhm.
So everything that we're introducing to that wood beam creates even more of a structural issue that we're trying to mitigate. I realize everything's fixable. Money can cure all of that, but we're trying to keep one structural beam that ties in after that. We're trying not to add any additional load to that existing beam. Now, that was the intent. So if we were to move this, let's say 2 feet in, or 3 feet, or 4 feet, we're stressing that beam even more. So I know those are things that we can work on structurally, but we're trying to save money for our client.
Sure. I think 2 feet would make a huge difference in the perception of it from.
Sure. And I certainly would support looking at that further.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
I have 2 additional questions for you. The first one is the bifolding door system that you have. Do you have any additional images or reference materials besides what you showed?
I don't. That's all I brought today.
Okay. So then is your intentions for the design to have just the door leaves that are single piece of glass?
That was our intent, yes, sir. We were going to have them stack all to one side.
Okay. Is there an option to have any sort of either different styles in those doors, or is that kind of the one style that comes with it?
They will introduce vertical and horizontal mullions as we request.
Okay. And then the second kind of topic point, I wanted to look at the flat roof for the addition that we're adding for the closet or storage space in the toilet. I understand this isn't a historical Mediterranean style house, but typically a flat roof for a Mediterranean would have either parapets or siding that would come up to sort of hide that flat roof piece.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any design sort of thought given to that, to where that style was on the back versus just a typical flat TPO roof that has that trim piece around?
The key for this was to try and create a system that fit underneath the existing roof. As soon as we introduce a parapet, we start having to cut up some of the existing structure and then remove some barrel tiles. So this was a solution that allowed us to really maintain that envelope of the existing roof and build to that existing structure versus removal of pieces of it. So that was the intent. So we, in principle, we discussed that as an option, but again, versus doing it that way, which would introduce another foreign element, we would have probably proceeded with the variance request and gone ahead and continued the hip roof around.
And then is that trim, or is the trim detail that you're using on that anywhere else on the house, or is this going to be a new detail?
There are precast similar details around the house as far as around the window trim and on the front facade, so it's not foreign to what's there. In this particular case, we weren't going to show it as a precast element, but we were going to match the profile.
Okay. And then could you go to the front of the house elevation real quick? Either the rendering or elevation. You can just stick to the rendering.
Let me go to that one. That's what we're proposing.
So, and just to make sure, since we don't have anything, the intentions for the new railings that will be up on the roof, is that to match the railings that are on the balconies on the second floor?
Yeah, we have actually, on our notes, it shows that as an aluminum railing, but currently there's like a wrought iron detail, and our intent is to match the wrought iron details that are on the house.
Okay. And then for the pergola system, you're showing like a screen system that hangs below on the sides. Do you have any sort of details for those?
I think that's in our, I thought it was on our section detail. I guess it's, I don't see that on there. No, outside of the rendering, I don't have that separately detailed. That would also, it would just be a louvered carpentry detail.
Okay. Any additional questions?
I actually had a question that brought that up. As Is that serving a functional purpose other than being decorative? The
Mostly shade. We get a lot of, from that exposure, we get a lot of wind and kind of shade. I guess it'd be wind blocking too. So especially in the summer when we get big storms through there, it's just to kind of help block some of that. As the sun goes lower, it starts to bring light low into those spaces. So it's just an effort to kind of block some more light coming into there.
I ask because I feel like for me personally, that's one of the things that makes it feel less historically appropriate is that extra louver. That's just a question. And I also want to say there's many, many things that you did that are really nice.
Well, thank
Make
you.
this house look a lot
I
better.
understand. It's definitely a challenging project. It's not as cut and dry as most. I would like to say a lot of, I feel like we've over the years, we've gotten a great relationship working with staff. So in principle, we'd like to say that if there are concerns, if in general that we're happy with, if the board is happy with the direction, we would like to ask to work with staff to finesse some details if in general there are, if we could gain support.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Mr. Chairman, before, if you're going to close the public hearing, I know that Mr. Keener had provided a brochure, and I don't know, Mr. Keener, if you would like that brochure to be a part of the record of this evening's hearing?
I think it probably should be, yes.
Okay, so if he would like it to be a part of the record, so if we could have a motion to that effect?
I move to enter the Equinox Livered Door brochure into the record.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Beverly?
All right. All right. At this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for any rebuttal.
No, I think that, as I mentioned, we certainly understand that the Mediterranean revival style in this case is a little different than probably a traditional historic home. And I do stress that I think working with staff, we can mitigate some of these concerns you may have. If it's a matter of adding divided lights to the windows, we'd certainly be open to the proportions of those windows and to addressing some of those concerns with staff if possible. But thank you for your time, and that's all.
Thank you. At this point, we will be closing this portion of the public hearing. The commissioners will now discuss the case, starting on my left. If you want. Yes.
I wish that it was a little bit more period appropriate, I guess, the whole system on the top. I like the system. I think it has opportunity to be more Mediterranean looking, maybe without the vertical face louver screen on the front, and I would prefer to have the whole system set back further from the front of the facade.
I don't think I have much else to add. I agree with you. I also think we need to address however the windows are going to move forward. I don't think the windows that were proposed today are appropriate for the house as it stands today. So whether all of the windows are changing to what was proposed, or if the windows that are going to go in during this project are more appropriate to the windows that are currently on the house. I think it needs to be one or the other.
I agree with that on the windows too. Also, not just for the house as in itself, but also for the whole context.
Yeah.
Although this may be an outscaled building from the neighborhood, with the exception of the apartments across the street, everything else seems to be of its own period, and that includes in one form or another divided lights for those individual properties. So by having the new doors and new windows divided in a manner that makes sense for this house, we keep that whole context whole for the whole of that block and that immediate neighborhood, where all of the windows, or most of all the windows, are of a divided nature. And I think that should move forward there, because that's where we are now. The house has divided lights, we should continue with the divided lights,
Only on the windows or including the folding door?
including the folding door. For practical purposes, it's a big window. Now, the other thing we've talked about is the pergola structure. I do too also agree that the pergola structure should be provided with at least some minimal detailing, more attuned to the historical period, or if even more so of a more detailed garden type structure. It just needs to have that piece going with it. And if done appropriately, I don't have a problem with the columns for this structure being mounted to the wall top if they have their appropriate bases and details.
Are the appropriate bases and details even an option with that system? I thought it was really only the ends of the rafters.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. I think this would be something that could be very easily approached with the manufacturer, even if it is more block-like in nature. And we're not looking for a classical column here, but at least some manner of detail that makes a transition from the shaft to its base to the wall top.
Because it seems like if the whole pergola moved back, that the parapet and the railing really hides the base of that whole system, so you don't even see it. When the fact that it's pushed up against the wall, you do see it.
Agreed with that. Now, where that structure actually goes is another matter. Like what I'm saying is, though, is if it's detailed appropriately, I don't have a problem with it being mounted to wall top.
Does anyone else have a preference in terms of reference of if it's located on the exterior front wall versus it getting set back?
I think it's gonna look the same either way from the street. I mean, I don't see what a foot is gonna do.
It could go farther than a foot.
2 feet, I was saying, like twice as far as what he showed.
Like the
'cause-
2'8", so that it's brought in equally
Even
from the
with the
front and the
rest.
side.
Mhm.
I agree that it should be, it's already an overscaled structure, and
Mhm.
that is adding to the mass.
It's just making more flat. Everything's
Yeah.
more flat on the front.
Mm.
What do you all think about the louvered screen work?
I don't like that. But what do you think? I don't see that on other pergolas, I guess.
I could see that on a large-scale commercial sort of a situation.
Like a modern building.
You know, like a modern
Yeah.
building or whatever.
Sure.
I think that it adds to the bulk
Mhm.
of this structure,
Agreed.
and without it, I think the structure could be more wispy in its nature
Mhm.
and be less pronounced on that elevation.
For me, it's not so much the system that bothers me so much. I think if you look at the renderings and some of the elevations, in order to have the height under the pergola, to also have the larger ceiling fan, everything kind of just gets pulled up higher, so it
Mhm.
almost looks like it runs right into the bottom
Mhm.
of the roof.
Yeah, it's at the same height.
Whereas typically you'll see in most historic houses, if they do have any sort of a system, it's pulled a little bit farther down, so the scale's lower. So for me, I think, that's the issue that I'm sort of having, is it looks bigger than it really needs to be if it was kind of pulled down a little bit and set back. I understand this fan won't be able to fit under it, but then a lot of that mass that you're going to see is hidden. But I do tend to agree that I think the detailing and some of the details need to be a little bit more traditional in the style. But the actual system and it moving, I can go back and forth over.
You know, the louvered screen adds to that mass.
Yes.
Yes.
I think if it wasn't as massive, 'cause it reads like a deep beam in many respects, the proposed height, I don't think would be a problem if it weren't there.
Yeah. Yeah, because it'd be so thin.
It'd
I
be-
do agree, it
it'd
would be better if it was shorter, but.
So, sort of consolidating everything, we prefer it to be set back from the exterior wall.
I think we say that it needs to be set back 2 feet or more from the exterior wall.
Okay.
Anybody?
That's fine.
I know, to just do what I say.
As
Anyone?
currently, as it currently appears on the elevation.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we feel that it needs to have any more traditional details or
Yes,
look historically accurate?
yes, that they work with staff on
Okay.
tweaking the edge condition, the detailing to be more historically accurate to the Mediterranean style.
How do we feel about the screens on the front?
I want it to come up.
Okay.
You can keep it.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem, I don't have a further issue with the screen, so it's just
I think they
wondering.
should come off. I think it makes it too heavy and it makes it look more massive than it really needs to be.
I also don't
Okay.
prefer
Okay.
them.
Okay.
Screens go.
I don't think that's historically what you would see, so
I would agree.
it's not just a preference. I think it doesn't match the period.
And then we're going to suggest the divided lights for both the new windows and the doors. Do we want to
Mhm.
have staff review the windows in terms of,
Yes.
I guess,
Compatibility?
to make sure they're compatible with what's existing at the same time as if they're also coming forward with replacing the windows? That way there's not two separate directions.
Yes, so we're just gonna say work with staff to have a consistent window
Yep.
style.
What about the door system? How do we feel with it being a bifold, typically non-traditional, what we would see?
I don't have
Is
an
there
issue
one
with that.
I don't have an issue with that. Transparent, I don't think you're gonna,
It
it's
is-
either open or it's closed and it looks. I don't have an issue with that.
And then the railings for the third floor on the new roof, to make sure that matches the existing railings.
Yes.
Agreed.
Needs to happen.
All right. So, there was a comment made by one commissioner. There are a large amount of somewhat large comments and conditions. Do we have any issues with either the quantity or what's being asked? Or do we feel staff can?
I don't think any of these are very complicated, yeah.
Okay.
So we're looking at to have these addressed on a staff level.
We would make these conditions of approval, and then a couple of them, they would work out with staff, like the consistency of the window details, the pergola detailing to make it more historically appropriate with the Mediterranean style. And I think that was it, that was it, working with staff. The rest of them were just conditions.
Right, correct.
Okay,
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I can make a motion. I will move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 20-80 for the property located at 717 South Brevard Avenue with the following conditions. That the applicant set the pergola back from the front facade 2 feet or more. That the applicant work with staff on the detailing of the pergola system to make it more appropriate to the Mediterranean period. That the vertical louver system be removed from the pergola to make it more historically accurate. That the applicant work with the staff to make the window system consistent across the entire house, either with divided lights or without on the entire house. And that the railings added to the top parapet match the existing railings on the window system below. Is that everything?
Yes.
Because, based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Hyde Park Historic District Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa, for the following reasons: that with these conditions, we feel like it's moving towards the Mediterranean historic style in a modern take, and that proportionally it is also improving with the design suggestions or the design solutions that the applicant has presented.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against?
Nay.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Commissioners, the next case reflected on tonight's agenda is ARC 20-95. This is for the address of 1808 West Watrus Avenue. This is also in the Hyde Park Historic District. This is a contributing structure that dates back to 1923. The zoning is RS 60. The request is for a certificate of appropriateness for a new construction to the primary structure, an addition. And then there's variances attached to this request. There's a variance request for the rear yard setback from 20 foot to 3 foot, 3.5 feet, with an encroachment for 1.5 feet for eaves and gutters. And then there's an existing condition in the front yard that he wishes to vest, and that's indicated on the site plan. My recommendation to the board is to allow the applicant to provide a complete presentation so you understand where the variances is at. You'll see the challenges with the parcel that I'll show you now as we go through the photo essay. I'd like to start with the 1929 Sanborn as a reference point. And the parcel does face Watrus. You have Jatan to the north, and you have Albany to the west. There is no alley that's associated with this parcel. It's a unique block. And then you see the parcel here. So there's some challenges. As I drill down onto this particular block, you see all the structures, how they kind of congregate to the property lines that they abut. So within this block, there's some challenges with that parcel. Our current overhead shot. You see the roof forms of the existing structure and the immediate abutting structures. This is a modest craftsman style home. That's approximately 1,600 square feet. And the request this evening is to add 300 square foot to the rear. This is looking down the drive aisle. There's some challenges with the parking on site that are really not consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines, but with the challenges of the parcel, this is how it existed from the infancy when the house was constructed in 1923. I've been working with the owners administratively to work on rehabilitating the structure. There were some concerns when they bought it, and they have preservation in mind as they're moving forward. So from the inside to the outside, they're going through this process. Here you see the clapboard siding, you see the mitering of the corners, you see the 1/1 historic windows and how the trim is applied. You see the exposed rafter tails and the fireplace with the shoulders. Here are the rafter tails. Here's a closer shot of the corners, the trim, and the windows. Moving to the dormer that kind of breaks up the roof. This is abutting to the east. This terminates the block. This is to the east. To the west. And then just directly across the street, you see the fabric that's around it, and they're craftsman style homes and regular stock, not high end. That concludes the presentation.
Good evening. My name is Alan Dobbs. I'm the designer, acting as agent on behalf of the owners of this property. One of the owners, Linda Davis, is here tonight. So, as you can see from what Ron presented, there are definitely some challenges on this house. Basically, it's a very modest 3-bedroom, 1-bath home. And there's a small porch on the back of the house, like a utility porch, very common of this era home. And they want to add a bathroom, add like a a master bath and maybe like a sort of expand that porch and have it a little more utilitarian, a little more functional. So that was sort of the challenge. I think I'm gonna probably in some of these drawings just show the, use the Elmo here, but I have the big drawings. But the main thing is, you know, this is where the current setback is for RS 50 for the zoning district. So you literally can't do anything to expand this house to the back without having to get a variance. Even if we added a second floor, there's really not enough room in the house because it's so small to add a stair, so we'd probably add a stair to the rear. And then by adding a second floor, we'd sort of lose the modest nature of this small bungalow. And then the other thing is there's a relatively small side yard here. There's an existing shed that's going to be removed because we're sort of over on area, so that was one of the requirements of zoning. And then there's also this existing driveway and vehicular access and parking is an issue. You know, typically with the older homes, you want the vehicular parking to be beyond the front face of the house, which we sort of have here. Transportation had a comment that we needed to redo the apron. So that's, the existing one is fairly old. It's kind of broken up, so it does need to be replaced, and they're wanting us to make it wider. So let me zoom in on this a little bit, because it's not there, so, okay. So we're doing the apron per City of Tampa requirements that has the little flares on the side. But then where this existing driveway comes in and intersects the sidewalk here, and where it comes and not intersects the sidewalk here, but on the far side, we're going to cut the existing sidewalk because, again, the existing sidewalk is broken up. And then we're just going to replace that sidewalk and do the appropriate scoring pattern to match the existing pattern. So that's all transportation-driven requirement. All this is unrelated to what we're doing. It's just sort of ancillary. Then the other thing with this is because this is the front building setback, we figured if we're getting a variance back here, we might as well go ahead and just vest the existing conditions. So we have a setback reduction on the front here, and it was noticed at 7.3 feet to the structural edge of the porch at the closest point, and then the house at 16.4 feet from the closest point here as well. The floor plan, the existing floor plan, this is screened, but it's very light, so it's hard to see it, but this is where the existing porch is, right here. That's going to be removed, and this is where the, here, I'll just go up here. This is the rear of the house, original rear of the house. So we're going to build this back to more like a utility room that can maybe function as like a little breakfast room or Florida mudroom or something like that. We need to have a place for the washer and dryer, so we're putting the washer and dryer here and adding like a little half bath. Because as I said, the house only has one bathroom now, so we're going to have the guest bath where the original bathroom was, and then this is just a little half bath for guests to use. And then this is the small part that we're adding on to the bedroom. They've already modified a lot of their house on the inside and just created some reach-in closets. I know one of the problems with a lot of these older bungalows, people tend to do master bedroom suites that are sort of out of scale with the house. So these are relatively modest closets. This is going to be a little sitting room, and then the master bath with just a pedestal sink toilet and a tub, and then linen storage. On the back of the house, which you'll see in the elevations, this is a gable on the rear, so it was a little bit of a challenge getting this addition done and fitting within the, or working with the existing massing of the structure. One of the other things I want to sort of go back to is the other variance reductions is for the rear of the house. Is we sort of stair step this a little bit. So this is the sitting room, master bath, and then the utility room. So at the closest point is what we noticed, which is the which is the 3.5. One of the variance hardship criteria that I'll address later has to do with impact on neighbors and things like that. This is no closer than if somebody were to do an accessory building in the back. So it's really not going to adversely affect any of these neighbors at all. And while I'm on it, just the lot itself is much smaller than most of the lots in Summer Heights. It's oddly configured. So all of that is, and then the existing conditions as far as not being able to modify this house in any way without having to get a variance, that sort of all adds to our hardship right here. I'm going to go ahead and go to the drawings. Sorry about that. Okay, well, I think I already talked about all the stuff relating to the site, and so I'll go ahead and move to the elevations. Okay, so, and this is all right. Okay, so here we have the north or front elevation, but we really don't have the elevation because it's in the back, so I just sort of did a section, and then this shows part of the addition. So we actually have a side gable over on the side here, and then this is the entry door to get into the side porch. Let's see. The other elevation, this is the right side, so this is looking at the sort of the side of that existing porch. That porch gets removed because this corner is the one that's closest to the rear property line. We're limited in how far we can set back. So right here shows where we're adding on at the sunroom, and then this roof is a little bit lower than the other roof, which I'll show you in the rear elevation, which is this one. So this shows the utility porch as it exists now with the shed roof that's coming off. There's actually a pair of French doors here, but they don't go anywhere. So those are going to be removed, and we're going to make a larger opening from the master bedroom to this sunroom. So you can kind of see here that this is the existing roof. So this is the part where we have a little bit of conflict here, so we want to separate the roofs here. So we have a lower 7'6" ceiling height here. And then we did a hip roof. I know this house has all gables, but by having a hip roof here, we're able to not interfere with this existing gable end. And because that's one of the things with the Secretary of Standards is if this is removed, then we're not interfering with more of the existing structure than we have to. The windows, I know, are a little bit oddly proportioned. This is in the back corner. They're totally out of the public realm. Nobody will see it. Since this is their sitting room, they just wanted to have high windows. So that's what those are for privacy. Here is a gable that sort of works off the existing gable, and then the two windows, one in the bathroom, one in the laundry room. And this is where the geometry got kind of interesting. It's actually a fairly common thing with a lot of bungalows is where you have a gable one way and then you have a cross gable going the other way, and there's sort of this intersection where this comes in and tucks in, and then you have this roof sloping back there. So if we look at this elevation on the side, then we sort of, and this is where the side yard is. So this is the more important sort of elevation. So we have two windows on this side. We have the gable, again, matches all the that this thing house.
Could the camera zoom
sorry.
up to the top a little bit?
It does help, doesn't it?
Thank you.
Okay. So there's the side elevation facing the side yard. And then the door is actually in this wall here, and then there's just cascading stairs down. Fortunately, we only have 3 steps, so we don't have to have a handrail. And then when we turn the corner, I'm not sure what's happening there. Oh, that's part of the. Okay. I'm sorry. That's the existing left side elevation. I'm sorry. That goes with this one. So yeah. So this is the porch that gets removed, and then this is what gets replaced. There's a little challenge getting all these to fit on one sheet. The materials, all the casing and trim for the windows will match existing. We're going to do we're not going to do corner boards. These are actually not miter joints. They're it's called a woven butt joint, which is a watertight joint. So we're matching that detail. And the exposure on the siding, we're matching that. We're using wood siding. The roof, we're using a dimensional asphalt shingle. And then there's the foundation details enclosure was one of the things that was, I think the staff had a comment on. This goes down really low, so it was even hard to find out what is there now, so I guess we're just gonna have to work that out in the field. So on the wall section, we're matching the existing ceiling height with the exception of the sunroom, where we're gonna be 7'6". I have the dimensions over here. Okay, yeah, the camera's on it. Okay. So just working our way down, dimensional asphalt shingles. We're going to have exposed rafter tails that match the existing. We're going to have 1x4 finished soffit underneath with a drip that actually extends a little bit past the plumb cut rafter tail. 2x4 frame walls with R13 insulation. On the outside, we're going to have the beveled wood siding, and then down here, it flares out, so we're going to match that flare on the addition. And then you see how it comes down real low here, and then the structure of the addition is going to be back here with a double 2x perimeter beam. The window details, again, we're going to match all the exterior trim, and from the bottom up, you know, a little quarter around here to trim out the siding to the sub-sill, and then you have the window sill. At the top, you have the window head casing and drip and flashing, again, to match existing. And there's an elevation of the window. And then I have a sample of the window while we're talking about windows, and then I'll go over the materials. And I don't know when the camera's on it, so is the camera on it yet?
Yes.
Okay, so it's very challenging on a contributing historic structure when you have to use wood windows and get a wood window that's rated, and to get it proportional and looking like the original windows. So this is a Sierra Pacific window. It's not approved yet, but they are working on their approval. What's nice about it is you have the vertical joint between the bottom rail and the side stile, and other than that, it's an insulated glass with the impact layer on the outside, and as you can see, it's an all wood window, and that's something that we've always worked very closely with staff on our projects with windows, because those are arguably some of the most character defining features on a home, and also it's part of keeping your house protected from the elements as well. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the detailed materials, and then I'll go through the variance hardship criteria. I think Ron did a really good job explaining the details of the house as far as the rafter tails, the soffits, the siding, the trim, and his pictures are a lot better than mine, so I'm going to skip mine. Right now the house has, it looks like just regular 3-tab shingles, so at least on the addition, and then maybe if they decide to re-roof their house, we're going to use, these are Certainty Landmark, which is a dimensional asphalt shingle. It has a sort of a variegated color pattern to it. The light fixture, my client likes, she's from the UK, and they're in historic properties. A lot of times part of the way they differentiate new from existing is on some of the newer elements, they tend to be a little more modern, but this is kind of, I think this kind of blends because it does look period. It's got a antique bronze finish, and then the light. So that's going to be the light beside the side door. The side door, the proportions are not quite right on this as far as the upper light pattern, but basically it's going to be a wood panel door. And then the hardware is going to be sort of a craftsman style hardware, again with the dark bronze finish that kind of goes with the light, so it sort of ties some of those details together. In regards to the, I'm going to put this down because there's a microphone here, right? Okay. Okay, so with the variance, the first thing is about being unique and singular. I think it's pretty obvious that this is sort of a very different lot than any other lots in Hyde Park. So, there's very little we can do to it as far as making a home that's more livable and has sort of reasonable use. I mean, 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms is very reasonable use, especially for a house in Hyde Park. So that sort of addresses the first hardship criteria. The next one is that the hardship is not does not result from the actions of the applicant. Well, this house was built in this location, so obviously that's the case there. The third one, that it will not substantially interfere or injure the health, safety, or welfare of others whose property would be affected by the allowance of this variance. No neighbors had any issue with it. I think my client talked to some neighbors. As I mentioned before, the rear of this building is no closer than what all the other properties can do as far as an accessory building. So we're no closer than 3 foot, which is required for an accessory building. The fourth one, the variance is in harmony with and serves the general intent and purpose of this chapter and adopted Tampa comprehensive plan. The response there is the requested variance is consistent with the general intent and purpose of this chapter and the adopted Tampa comprehensive plan by allowing an existing single-family residence to be modified for, and the operable word is reasonable use. The fifth one is allowing this variance will result in substantial justice being done, both the public benefits intended to be secured by this chapter and the individual hardships or practical difficulties that will be suffered due to a failure of the board to grant this variance. This is a little challenging just because of the wording of it. So I'm going to read my response. The variance will allow additional living area consistent with surrounding homes in the area. Similar homes in size in this area do not have the extra burden of a small, oddly configured lot. The variance for a rear yard setback reduction would provide relief and allow reasonable use of the property. Substantial will be done by allowing for these hardships and practical difficulties to be addressed. And the last one really relates to it being in the historic context of Hyde Park. And so I'll go ahead and read my response to that one. The proposed addition meets all the requirements of Hyde Park design guidelines and the Secretary of Interior standards for modification to a contributing structure in a historic district. Things like scale, massing, setback, orientation, site coverage, alignment, rhythm, spacing are all especially important considerations for this project, considering the existing design constraints and historic patterns of development in Hyde Park. And before I conclude my presentation, I'm going to see if my client would like to say anything.
Hi, I'm Linda Davis. Don't have a lot to add except to say that I'm from the UK, so I'm new to the area, but I am very used to working with very historic buildings and respecting that. And so not only do I bring that to it, but I work for a historic restoration business in Tampa. Work for a window restoration business, which so for me actually these windows don't do what my windows that I work with do, which is really historically accurate windows, but pretty close. It's a really small property. It's actually 1,360 square feet, so we're looking for an additional 300 square feet, which is we think is pretty modest. I'm from the UK, so we're used to very, very small houses. So for us, this is this would make this house a decent, livable family home for us. So that's what I have to add.
So that concludes our presentation.
Thank you. At this point, staff will present the staff report.
Commissioner, I would request that you focus on the variance portion, if you have any additional questions for him. And then have a motion on the variance. If it's positive, obviously, you could go into the certificate of appropriateness. As Dennis alluded to at the beginning of the public hearing, we're starting to put additional information into the record. The statement of hardship that Mr. Dobbs went through, we're going to enter that into the record. The good neighbor noticing, that goes out to everybody within 250 radius feet and all the neighborhood groups. And then the affidavit attesting to the notification as well, along with everybody on the mailing list will be entered into the record. So at this time, the staff is verifying that he did perfect the noticing to everybody within the noticing area, consistent with our code. Thank you.
At this point, we will open the public hearing to any public comment. This portion will only be in reference to the variance. So if there's anyone that would like to speak either for or against the project. Okay, seeing none. The commissioners will now ask questions regarding the variance only. Anyone?
I reserve my question for the moment.
Okay.
Was consideration given rather than building toward the back rear of the property to fill in the side yard?
Consideration in the side yard? That's what you're asking? Not really, because the existing house is so close to existing side yard. Actually, I'm going to go to this little video thing here. Might be a little easier. So, the setback is very close here. So to get any functional space here, we would have to ask for a variance as well on the side.
I think the question was
I'm
referencing
sorry,
more
The other
towards
side. We're
the other
behind
side.
the driveway.
Oh, to
right?
this side. Okay. Well, if you go to this side, then the kitchen is in this area. So any addition that you would do off of the existing house, I'm going to go to the large drawings to be a little easier. Okay, so if they can just kind of focus on this whole area right here. So if you were to do an addition where you did not have to get a variance, you would have to do an addition in this area. And if you did an addition in this area, then you would lose any natural light to the kitchen and then potentially the dining room, which is further down here. And plus, it's not a historical pattern either. Typically, these kind of spaces are on the rear of the house. And also, this is really the only outdoor living area, that they have. They have this area for parking, and then all that's left is just a small side yard. They certainly have no rear yard and no side yard. So we just felt that since we're not required, or that we can do it without going any closer than 3.5 feet essentially, we can do a very modest addition off the back. Minimal impact from the front, that's another important consideration. So we're not really changing this front elevation. We're just on the very back of the house. We're just projecting out here. So all those things are sort of why we ended up doing the addition to the back. And again, keep in mind where this line is. This line cuts through the kitchen. So pretty much anything we do on the back of the house, we're going to have to get a variance, and there's really not an option to do it on the forward part of the house because of the existing spaces and the sacrifices that would have to be made.
I don't have any additional questions.
I don't either.
What is the distance from the existing patio on the back to the property line? Do you know?
The patio that's not shown here?
No, the
Oh.
one, isn't it on the back where you're adding the addition that you're tearing down?
The,
Oh,
It's
yeah,
kind of
the-
hatched in there.
Oh, yeah, this,
underneath.
this existing patio
Yes.
right here.
From that corner to the,
From the
Property
existing
line.
patio to the corner, it's,
well, like the closest corner to the property line, the other
well,
corner.
oh, yeah, so it'd be
That
over
one,
here, it would be this way.
Yeah,
Scale-wise, if that's 4 feet, it's probably about 6 feet. Let's see, there's 7'6" there, and it's probably less than 7'6" there, so I would be comfortable in saying it's less than 8 feet.
okay. So then you're asking for an additional 2.5 feet? 3?
Yeah, well, just enough to make these rooms functional.
Yeah, and, do you know where, it looks like on the site plan, at least maybe it was an aerial or historic site plan, it seems like there's a house that's really close to that corner. What is the
you're talking about
distance?
This corner, or?
I don't know, there's another irregularly shaped lot that kind of wraps itself around this lot, and the house is like right up on the corner.
Kinda see it
I was just
there.
curious how close the two houses would be if you were to build this addition.
Right, well, the Florida Building Code and the Fire Code, they cannot be any closer than, I think
5
it's 10 feet.
10
Let me see
Right,
if I-
so it's kind of on the,
On the aerial?
yeah, the triangle, like the right angle corner of the triangle of the,
yeah, if you're looking at the Sanborn map,
Exactly, but I think, I want to say they're about 6 feet.
From the property line?
Yeah, maybe,
Okay.
but, I mean, they all do come.
yeah, that particular point, it seems like they'd be
They're-
very,
they're
very
everybody
close
else,
together.
The other one
She's gonna
is
speak,
the
she
one
needs to
saying
come
it's 6 feet.
Okay.
if you are going to say anything for the thing, could you please
Yeah.
come up to the podium so that
Yeah,
way
so
we
they
can hear you for record?
Yeah. Yeah, I think she was kind of talking to me, but at the same time you were talking. Did you want to say anything? Okay.
Well, only, I think the property behind is about, the other property behind us is about 6 feet away. And the one to the west of us isn't close. The
No, that
roof
one's
line
not.
from that aerial photo made it appear that it overlaps onto us, and it doesn't come that close at all.
It just seems like with you being like 3 feet off the property line at that corner, and then they're like super close, the houses are gonna be very, very close at that corner.
The other one's a 2-story,
Mm-hmm.
I think from that aerial photo, it makes it appear that it's closer than it actually is. If that makes sense.
Okay. I think that was all my questions.
Going off of that, I have a question for staff. Would that be something that's reviewed through the city in terms of the distance of either the proposed addition to make sure it does meet Florida Building Code?
We've already looked at all projects prior to them coming here. We have other city agencies review the project. So as presented preliminarily, it meets the criteria. As it goes through the permitting process, it would have to meet the building code as well for separation to the property line, not to other buildings. So they will be 2 foot clear from the closest edge of the building to the property line. That's the overhang and the gutters, not to the body of the building. So it would have to meet that code.
And then what would be, so if we do the variance for the rear setback, understanding that the addition to this house would be closer, if it does come back on a permit level or later on that this building would become too close, what would be the next steps?
Well, as indicated on his noticing, he shows that from the property line to the body of the building, and then he included the encroachment for eaves and gutters, so he does meet the criteria in the current code.
Okay.
But between the separation between the buildings at the corners, does anybody look at that, or they will look at that, you're saying, in the permitting
It will be
process?
from the building, from where he wants to build it, to the property line. We're not looking at building to building, so it's gonna be a greater distance to the abutting property.
And you said it was 2 feet from the
2
eave
foot
to the
clear.
property line, but isn't he asking for, oh, he is asking for 2 feet, all right, I figured it out.
I'm not sure what table it is in the Florida Building Code. It's in Chapter 3 of the Residential Florida Building Code. It talks about 2 feet being the minimum, the minimum that you can be from property line with anything that's not fire rated. So that's why we have 3.5 feet plus like 18 inches of overhang. So we're not encroaching on that 2 feet.
Any additional questions? So,
No, sir, I do not.
okay. At this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal for the variance portion only, if there is any.
Okay. Well, it sounds like there wasn't any concerns other than what the surrounding buildings are, but I can assure you that the construction services will verify that this building will meet any building codes as far as building separation. And if for some reason that building is really close, then, and we have to modify it, then Ron will say we have to come back before this board, you know, if it requires a substantial change.
All right.
So,
Thank you. At this point, we'll close the public hearing, or,
Mr. Chairman, before you close, the documents that were provided by staff with regard to the affidavit of compliance with the notice requirements, if that could be entered into the record.
I have actually an additional question about this as well. It was also brought up in terms of vesting the existing front yard setback. Is that something that legal would recommend including on this, or leaving as is, and not mentioning the front setback?
Well, the application before you is requesting both a variance to vest the existing conditions in the front yard,
Okay.
as well as the rear yard setback for the proposed addition. When I met with staff, the one question we had was with regard to how the application was completed, and noticed where it shows that for the front yard setback, they're seeking a reduction from 25 feet to 16.4 for the building, and then from 25 feet to 7.3 for the porch. Typically, when you see requests for variances, it's just between the property line and the closest point of the structure, which would be the front porch. So I thought the inclusion of a variance between, for the setback between the front yard and the building was unnecessary. Because if you were to find, if the commission finds that the applicant meets the hardship criteria for the front yard setback, it would be at a 7.3 feet for the porch. It would be for the conditions as depicted on the site plan, which necessarily shows where the building commences and what that distance is. So I understand that staff with the city had counseled Mr. Dobbs to complete the application in the manner in which it was completed. I just think that additional request for a variance to the building is unnecessary and redundant, given that the vesting to the porch, as depicted on the site plan, would accomplish the same purpose.
Okay. And then, I guess open this back up. Does the applicant have any additional rebuttal based off of what was stated?
No, we were basically just doing that at direction of staff. In a lot of historic areas, they have different setbacks for open porches than enclosed conditioned spaces, especially in Seminole Heights in the build-to line with the new form-based building code. So I thought it important to differentiate that, so that if we went with the smaller dimension, the board wouldn't have concerns that somebody could build back an enclosed front porch.
Okay. All right. Thank you. At this point, we will close the public hearing.
Before you close, we still need a motion to
Reopen.
accept the additional documents that were entered into the record by staff with regard to the variance.
Okay.
Does it matter that they're not signed?
Yeah.
Does it matter that pages 2 of 4, 3 of 4, and 4 of 4 don't have signatures?
So the very last page has the signatures for the agent authorization.
For everything?
But the documents I'm referring to are the ones that were provided by Ron with regard to the evidence of compliance with the notice requirements for the various. Ms. Jusak has those documents if you need to see them.
Make a motion to accept the additional documentation provided by staff into the public record.
I second the motion.
Would you like to? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those against? All right, motion passes. All right, now I'd like to close this portion of the public hearing, and now the commissioners will discuss the case. Is there anyone that would like to discuss?
I'm ordinarily opposed to issues that revolve around self-created hardships. I, however, recognize that this existing structure, as modest as it is already non-conforming with respect to the limitations of its site, its siting, or even the site size for that matter. I'm looking at this as a situation where perhaps we leave well enough alone for the most part, and recognize that since substantial portions of the existing structure already violate current setbacks, that a modest addition as being proposed here does not necessarily violate the intent of maintaining yards. It's a tight situation overall. If the whole of this building were within the confines of its setback, with an addition encroaching beyond those setback lines were a part of the proposal, then we'd be having an entirely different discussion here.
I agree. I think that this is a unique condition. The lot is very oddly shaped, and the building is already substantially over the setbacks that were created, I'm sure, much later than it was built originally. The only question makes me a little hesitant just because it's so close to the back property line. But then really you can't add anything on the, they're coming out an additional like 3 feet, 2.5 feet from where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Very torn on this one.
It's just so close to that adjacent house.
Yeah.
If anyone had a right to complain, it would be that adjacent homeowner.
Right, which apparently did not,
They're not here.
yeah.
So I'm also slightly torn between the two. So for me, I completely understand based off of some of the zoning guidelines that we have now. And today, you would not be able to put the historic house on this lot as it is. My only concern is by doing this, could you create, bless you, could you create a larger home in the future? And would we be allowing, I guess, a house that's too large in the future with the setback?
It can only be taller in that same footprint, right?
Well, could also expand into that open side yard.
Yeah. Well, to some extent, there's parking required that you
Right.
have to get, not much, it couldn't expand much. And if they built on the side yard, to Shauna's point originally, then it doesn't connect to the bedrooms at all, so the whole point was to add bathrooms, which I understand isn't a hardship, but.
And then how do we feel about vesting the sort of the building to the porch separately? So I understand the way typically we would do it to the structure, which would be the 7.3 feet for the porch.
I like vesting it separately.
I do too.
I do too.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion for the variance, or is there any more discussion needed? Do we need additional discussion?
No.
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
The other side.
Variance Part A. Allow me to move that the variance request for case ARC 20-95 for the property located at 1808 West Watrus Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a variance with a reduction of the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 3.5 feet with an encroachment of 1.5 feet for eaves and gutters. Based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof.
I think we also have to do the vesting.
That would be a separate one.
It's the commission's pleasure if you want to handle them separately or in one motion.
We can do them separately, it's fine.
That's what I thought we were doing.
Okay.
Again, based on the petitioner's meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-114, subsection D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances for granting of variances as stated, and the evidence provided in this public hearing, specifically that the variance meets the the hardship or practical difficulty, does not result from the actions of the applicant. The variance, if granted, will not substantially interfere with or injure the public health, safety, or welfare of others whose properties would be affected by the allowance of the said variance, and that the allowing of the variance will result in substantial justice being done.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Would anyone like to make a second motion for the second variance portion?
Allow me to continue with that, please. I move that the variance request for case ARC 20-95 for the property located at 1808 West Watrus Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a vesting of an existing front yard setback variance from 25 feet to 16.4 feet to the main building and to 7.3 feet for the open porch, based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-114, subsection D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances for granting of variance as stated, and the evidence provided at this public hearing, specifically that the variance, if granted, will allow development that is consistent with the design standards and compatibility with the historic pattern of development within the historic district, historic conservation overlay district, or this property in specific.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Aye. Motion passes. All right.
Commissioners, Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Mr. Dobbs did a complete presentation. Both variances were approved. Moving to the certificate of appropriateness, staff's finding that the application is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines. With the modest scale of the addition, with the site challenges that are presented in this particular case, and the complementary materials that were provided on his elevations and his wall sections, staff believes that this is consistent with our criteria, and he did address all the items on the staff report on page 4. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing to any public comment, and this portion will be in regards to only the architectural addition. Seeing and hearing none, the commissioners will now ask questions, starting on my left.
I don't have any questions. I think it looks consistent with the house.
I agree. It seems consistent. No questions.
I just had one question again about the windows. One of the side elevations, we saw the high windows over the bedroom, and then we saw 2 different window styles.
Okay.
So that, the elevation all the way to the left.
This one right here?
Yes, so we've got that window.
Right,
Mhm.
this window,
Yeah.
yes.
I understand that one, so then you've got the two in that middle section, a larger one on the right section, and then on the elevation to the right of that, you've got a single pane window.
Okay, yeah, what I'll do is walk you through it, because,
Sure.
so, yeah, these windows are sort of unique and singular for their situation. These windows are a smaller single hung window typically that you have in bathrooms and sometimes over kitchens, although kitchens are usually a little bit wider, but they have a higher sill height, so they're narrower so that they're sort of in proportion. This window and the pair of windows up in this elevation match the size of the existing windows. This window here, looking at it now, it probably should have been a single hung window. I think we drew it as like a casement window or a fixed window, is what we talked about. You okay with the single hung window? Okay, yeah. So, this should really be a single hung window so that we're more consistent with the windows.
And then the dimensional roof shingles that you're proposing, are those to match the existing roof?
The existing house actually has 3-tab shingles on it, which are typically not allowed or approved in the historic district. So we didn't want to match those. Are you replacing the whole roof as part of this, or just?
Not as part of we will eventually would like.
Okay, right, okay. So obviously they will eventually replace the roof, but we didn't think it was appropriate, and we didn't think we could get past this board to match the existing 3-tab shingles. So we're going with a fairly common a fairly common dimensional asphalt shingle.
I don't have any other questions.
I have no question.
I have a few questions for you. The AC unit location that's currently shown on the site plan, is it going to stay where it is, or is it going to be replaced and relocated?
It's probably going to stay where it is, because if they can keep the existing air handler and it's large enough to supply the additional space that they're adding, then great. But if they have to increase the size, they're just going to replace the condensing unit. So, yeah, I know ideally it would be better to be on the other side of the house, and maybe they will consider that. But for tonight, it's going to remain in its current location. So if it does have to be replaced with a larger unit, it will be in the exact same location, so they can take advantage of all the existing infrastructure for that.
And that location is behind the existing fence?
It is
currently?
behind the existing fence,
Okay.
right? And it's behind another fence too. A little screen thing, so they don't have to look at it.
You did mention that the window that's currently proposed is not approved. If the building gets built before it gets approved, do you still plan to, or
Well,
what's your backup option,
okay.
I guess?
Well, it has its wind load. I actually picked up the sample this morning from Architectural Product Sales and talked to the person. They said it's in the process right now, so it should be shortly. But if it's not, we have options of doing a different window, and then we'd talk to staff, and I know there's some other window manufacturers that make wood windows, but that's always a tricky thing when we have the high wind loads and the impact requirement.
Okay.
So.
And then the only real kind of comment I have, and maybe you could explain a little bit, is the proposed partial north front elevation, which is 1P on your drawings. You do see the sort of, yep, right there. You do see the new door that you're adding into that mudroom.
Yes.
Was there any sort of either thought or design that you guys looked at to where that door was hidden from the front, to where either the addition didn't come past the new, or that west side, or I guess east side of the house, to where it blended in a little bit better, or?
It was, I think it was partially a functional consideration as far as the layout of the floor plan. I can pull the floor plan up if you like. But also, this is way far back. And then also, the style would be of a period style door that you typically see where you have the sort of the 1/3, 2/3 for like your side doors or something. And I know in Seminole Heights that there's a few homes, and I assume it's Hyde Park where the utility rooms doors will face the front or something other than the side.
Okay. I have no further questions. Any additional comments?
None.
Okay. At this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal, if any.
I'll waive that. I'm good.
Okay. This portion of the public hearing is now closed, and the commissioners will discuss the case. Would anyone like to start?
It seems like we only had two concerns come up. The working with staff on the final window approval if their windows don't get Florida product approval. And then the single hung window on the west elevation changing the window on the west elevation to be single hung.
Do we mind the two different roof materials?
I don't know that he has a choice, really. Hopefully they'll go back and change the rest of the house to match at some point.
It's only a matter of time. They last only for so
Yeah, I was
long.
gonna say.
The only additional thing that's, I think, bothering me a bit, and I do understand it's going to be on the back side, and maybe the one spot on this site and yard area where you're not going to see a lot of it. The west right side elevation that's proposed 2P that's on our screens, that's up on the board. You see the existing roof that's kind of sloping towards us. Then you see this addition that's got the hipped roof, the gable roof, and then also the opposite side of that that's sloping down. I understand why all three are designed and oriented the way they are, but it is a little busy. Yep. Does anyone have an issue with this? Any of the roofs, I guess, the roof lines? Because it does appear that it's in my mind, instead of one single addition that's kind of been added, you kind of have 2 to 3 things that have been added onto this house versus maybe one single piece.
I think the only way you could really change it, though, is to not do the stair stepping, the 3 stair steps that he did, which I get, it kind of parallels the back angle of the property. Because if the middle piece was out further and then the one piece stepped back again, then you could have that be the continuous. Like, I get why it is. I don't know how to make it better without substantially changing the design.
Right.
The busyness doesn't bother me.
I think he handled it as well as he
Okay.
could. Proportionally,
I think
it
so,
doesn't
too.
bother me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any additional comments or questions? Okay. Anyone like to make a motion for the building portion?
I will move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 20-95 for the property located at 1808 West Watrus Avenue with the following conditions. That the applicant work with staff on final window approval if the windows proposed today do not get Florida product approval. And that the window on the west elevation be changed to a single hung window. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Hyde Park Historic Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa in proportion, materials, scale, and that's it.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation staff. The next item on the agenda this evening is case number ARC 20-96 at 6002 North Central Avenue in the Seminole Heights Historic District. This application is for the construction of a new accessory structure with some site improvements. This is a corner property. It's located in the northern portion of the Seminole Heights Historic District up there. Pretty close to the northern edge of the historic district. There we go. All right. So I just wanted to show you that it's at the corner of Central Avenue and Idlewild. The building itself is, you can see the original footprint there, and it is intact today. Here's the present day aerial there. You can see that there is currently some structures in the rear yard. We'll get to those during the photo presentation. This is the front facing Central Avenue. This is one of the not common, but there's definitely enough of these for it to be a typical bungalow feature, to have the wall across the front porch and the steps that go up to the side. That's always kind of one of my favorite things to see. One of my favorite features. This is the north side of the building. It's a little hard to see because of the vegetation and the fencing. This is the south side of the main structure. And then moving further west along Idlewild, this is the rear of the property where the proposed accessory building is to go. There's some of the architectural details of the main building. You have the jigsaw cut Rafter Tails. And turning this, you can see the skirt around the foundation of the building. It flares out from the floor level. And the eaves have decorative vents, and you can see that there's just a rafter beam that projects out, supporting the gable end. The house has these casement windows. And then moving around the property, this is the house directly to the north, I believe. Yes. And then this is the house to the south across Idlewild. This is the property across Central Avenue on the east side of Central. And this is the house that is on the other side of the alley. It's just west of the subject property on Idlewild. It's a quick view looking north up Central Avenue. You can make out the Seminole Heights Methodist Church there in the background. And then looking south, so this is Idlewild to your right here. And this is a shot looking from Idlewild directly into the alley. Looking at the fence along the subject property, you can see that there is sort of play equipment in the backyard. And additionally, next to the play equipment, there is a shed structure that I believe is proposed to be removed as part of this project. This is continuing the view along the alley. You can see it's well traveled and easy to access the Paris Street to the north. And then looking south, this is the south view along the alley with the subject property on our left. And that concludes my photo presentation. So at this time, I'll have the applicant come forward to present his application.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Alan Dobbs. I'm representing Rob and Amber Vanderveer. They're here this evening. So they, I've known them for a while. They actually met in Seminole Heights, ended up getting married, having kids. So it's a great story of what happens in Seminole Heights. And they have this gorgeous sort of high-style, craftsman-style bungalow. And they wanted to add an accessory structure, which is very common in Seminole Heights. They're very desirable. As you know, currently they have a couple cars that they're just parking along the side of the street because they have a fenced-in yard. So anyways, so they wanted to do an accessory structure with parking below and living space above, and they wanted to do it as big as they could. So that's why we maxed it out to the maximum allowable of 950 square feet. I talked to Tim Keyport, who's the OSHNA, or Neighborhood Association chair. He was asking about the area and making sure that it's not an accessory dwelling unit, that's not going to be a living apartment, which it can't be legally. And so I wanted to make that clear that that's not a consideration. They're going to use it for their guests to stay and possibly as a studio and things like that. So, but it was a challenge with this house because a lot of these accessory structures are sort of two-story boxes. And this being the style house that it is, I thought that would sort of do a disservice to that house to have that kind of massing and form next to this house. So I was kind of considering all the houses and areas in Tampa, and it occurred to me that Bungalow Terrace in Hyde Park has wonderful 1.5 story little bungalows, or some people call them bungalettes or something. But they're great. They're very small in scale, and the second floor is much smaller than the first floor. So I thought that's the kind of form that we're going to use for this building. So that's the way we sort of approach the form of the building. Allows us to have a little bit bigger first floor footprint to accommodate, you know, the larger size cars that we drive nowadays. And also having a larger footprint allows us to do 2 single garage doors instead of 1 large garage door that is divided up or designed to make it look like 2 doors. So I'll just start with the site plan and then kind of go around all the drawings. So if the camera can zoom into the site plan. So you have pretty typical front yard setback, side yard setback.
Hold on a second, sorry.
Okay.
Could the camera crew for our monitors show the enlarged board? Thank you.
Okay. Is it good now?
Yes.
Okay. And then the alley to the west. So it is a very common pattern to have your detached accessory structure here as close to the alley as possible, and then as close to the property line as transportation and land development will allow us, and which is where we're located now. We're 13 foot 7.5 inches from the property line, and that comes from lining it up with the building. This front face of the garage lines up with the front face of the building. So we have this ribbon sort of driveways and a concrete apron, which I have some detailed pictures to show you of a very similar driveway in the neighborhood. My clients also wanted a covered connector. This area right here is their little utility porch. They have a washer and dryer in there, and their kitchen is in this area. So this is how they get from the house to the garage. So basically, it has a gable on this end here. So this is an eave across here. So basically, the connector roof just ties into this. It's at the same eave line, which you'll see in the elevations. That was a very important thing, to maintain that eave line for simple detailing. And it goes over here, and then the building itself is there. On the back side, it has a porch. They have a pool and a nice outdoor living area here with the little playground equipment. So on the second floor, we're going to have a porch sort of over this. So that's the result of the second floor porch. And also there's a garage door here so that if they need to bring any equipment through or whatever, that's a nice convenient access as well. You can see where all the trees are located, so there's really no trees, you know, in the area that we have to deal with. And so that's sort of the site and orientation. I'll go ahead and kind of explain the floor plans a little bit because that kind of helps explain some of the massing. But as I mentioned before, we just have a square footprint, 24 feet by 24 feet basically. And a little half bath here with maybe an outdoor shower or something for the pool bath, because they don't really have an easily accessible pool bath in the house. This is what I was talking about the garage doors here, here, and here. The reason these are shown as hinged doors is the neighbor across the street actually did hinged carriage house doors, and they have an operator that he got from Europe. And they're pretty slick the way they operate, so they want to try and do the same thing. So we'll work on that, but if we can't get this kind of function, then we're going to have the regular garage door. But this is what we're proposing, and it doesn't really affect how the door looks in the elevations. And then accessing the second floor was a real challenge. So you come in this door here, and then you turn and you go up. And when you go up, you arrive to the second floor right here. It's basically sort of a cruciform shaped. And then, so here's where the stair comes up and turns, and you arrive here. We have minimal height for the building, which you'll see on the elevations, which helps us to not have a long stair. This is just big open space here in the middle, with windows all the way around, which you'll see in the elevations. A bathroom here, which I haven't laid out yet, and then some sort of closet or mechanical area. And then all this is the roof below. And then you have the porch. You have a generous sized porch. Part of it encroaches over the garage, and then part of it juts out. And that was more of a functional requirement of having a nice usable sized porch right here, but also keeping the area down, because once we push this out, it puts us over on area. And then because the roof slopes up here, there's a little half height wall here, and then there's railing and columns on the porch, which you'll see in the elevations. So starting with the most important elevation probably is the one along Idlewild, which is the south elevation. So you can see the existing house here with the relatively low pitched roof. You have these fairly large brackets, which are 6x6 wood brackets. You have pretty much all casement windows on the house. And then you have this flared skirt with a very heavy, large scale water table that goes around, and then a board-on-board skirt that flares out. There's nothing here right now, so this is actually the connector. I don't know if the camera can maybe zoom in on this area a little bit, because basically between the house and the garage, we divided it into 3 bays. So we have 2 columns and then 3 spaces. But you'll notice there's actually a beam here that supports the roof rafters, and there's another beam down here. Part of that comes from the detail that's on this existing sort of porch thing that's on the house, but also the porch, the rear porch on this building, which we'll get to in a minute. So we're picking up on that same sort of detail on this. But as you can see, the eave or the roofs line up here with this connector here, and then we get over here, and then you have the large first floor massing with the similar roof, same roof slope, and then you have the 2 smaller style carriage house type doors. So function, whether they go overhead sectional door or if they're hinged, it's this exact same look. We have a wall mounted light to cast a parabolic shaped light pattern, which is really nice and attractive, and then the corner brackets on all the gable ends. And then you see here the gables of the bump outs on the side beyond. This is the elevation that faces the house. So we have a couple entry doors on either side. This is the one that goes to the garage. This is the one that goes to the stairs that go up here. The design of the windows are designed, they're going to be casement windows, with the light pattern similar to the existing house. The casing and trim is all going to match the house. All these brackets and even the profile, the barge rafter and also the individual rafters are going to match the house. And then again, we have the brackets here. And then you can see how the map, so this and this are in the same plane, but this and this sort of step back. And you can begin to see on this elevation the detail of the rear porch, where this is fairly high, but then we come down with this beam that has some little knee braces, and then we have a partial railing here, and then this is that wall that I had talked about before. And then turning around and looking at on the north side, this is the side that faces the pool. So this is kind of like their interior elevation. And they really wanted to do this one up nice, so that's why this has so much detail to it. So here again, you see that double beam, which is similar to what we have on the breezeway. We have the knee braces, and I don't know if the camera can zoom in real close right here, but this has these little S-shaped things, reminiscent of green and green. It's a very common detail in green and green architecture. And then we have the corbel, or actually it's a ridge beam, 6x6 ridge beam that comes out, and so we sort of have this king post here. The railing and the detail of that I'll get to in the wall section. But you can see this all in relationship to the main house. You know, it's all one story here. We do have this one two-story element, but it's on the back side of the house. It's not really within the public realm. And this part is sort of that existing porch. They have like a dining porch here now. The windows, I have the window details. I'm probably a little bit out of order on them, but again, the details of the trim, like the head casing with the drip cap, the large sill, the quarter round and the siding, and then on the side casing, you know, it has depth to it, so you get good profile panning and you get good offset between the face of the casing and the face of the siding. A lot of the newer construction, you don't get that offset, so you don't have the rich detail like you do with the older homes. This elevation right here is the one that faces the alley. You really won't see much of it because there's going to be a 6-foot fence right here, but I'm just going to kind of go through the materials on the outside. I think the drawings that y'all had, I noticed there were a few typos on it, so I apologize for that. I corrected it on these. But basically we have the standing seam metal roof. It's galvalume, a silver color. It's a low profile standing seam metal roof. There's at least 3 houses within a couple blocks that have that kind of roof, so it's been improved. And so we have the, you know, the cantilevered beam or bracket. We have the little knee brace and the 6x6 here on the porch. We have the wood railing. It's guardrail, but we have bigger, like 2x2 pickets that have the corners sort of chamfered for some little extra detail. Again, 6x6 column and 6x6 knee brace with a profile to it, and then a concrete slab back here. The board-on-board flared skirt, we're matching that, and then there's a heavy water table and a horizontal 6-inch trim underneath that. Beveled wood lap siding. My client wants to use wood instead of hardy on this, so we're using wood siding, which is actually better because it's thicker, so you get a deeper shadow line, and it's much better looking. It's so important that Hardy actually has a new product called, well, it's not new anymore, but it's called Artisan. That's actually a thicker siding, so you get deeper shadow lines, so it doesn't look as two-dimensional. And then, again, you have the woven butt joints there. That's actually easier to do with wood. And then you have the rafter tails are 2x8. That's what they are on the house. Most rafter tails on bungalows are maybe 2x6, or some of the other houses are 2x4. But these are 2x8 and then 2x10 barge rafters. So we're matching that. Again, this being sort of the high style arts and crafts, everything big and bulky and chunky. So we're just keeping, you know, with that. And then a standing seam. Yeah, I mentioned the standing seam metal roof. And then, so this is sort of like a typical wall section to show where it sort of steps back. So we're going to use engineered floor trusses so we can span that full 24 feet with minimal depth here to keep down on the height of the building. We have a concrete slab with the short stem wall for the foundation and structure of the building. We're going to do a thin brick veneer around to sort of match the brick on the house. We have the flared skirt, which will match the house. Basically, yeah, it's board on board, and it has like a 1x6, and it has this large water table here. And then wood siding all the way up, and the wood siding continues all the way up between the rafters. And then we have this profiled rafter tail with the drip, and we have the 3/4 inch, 1x6 V-groove soffit that will match the existing. And then we have the metal roof decking, and then we have 2x4 frame walls, first floor and second floor. Again, I talked about the window details. The overhangs, I didn't mention the overhangs, they're larger, of course, so they're 30-inch overhangs, so we're maintaining that. And then again, the lower angled roof that will match existing. On the porch, the other important sort of section detail is, we have just a thickened slab edge around, for the porch slab, but the columns will have their own independent footing. And then they'll come up, and they're actually a hollow wood box column, which are made with kiln-dried pressure-treated wood. They're great columns because you can run threaded rods up the middle. They're kiln-dried, they're finished. You put them up and you paint them, and you're done. And then, with the knee brace, with 6x6 knee brace I talked about, the floor structure, and then the railing. To get the railing from emphasize more of that horizontal, we have a handrail that's above another rail, so these pickets are shorter, more stocky, and they have like a 3/8-inch chamfer, that goes almost to the top and the bottom. I don't know how much I can zoom in to see that, but that's a real important sort of character defining detail of the railing. And then here you see the detail that's carried throughout, the project, from the breezeway to the porch here to the little porch element that Rob had built for their dining porch. But it has the 6x6s, and then you have the king post and the ridge beam, and then this is that little green detail that I sort of mentioned before, and then of course the roof. Then we'll go through some of the details and materials. I apologize, these may be a little out of order. So I said 3 cases tonight. This is, I just put some of these photos together real quick. This shows the rafter details that we're matching, the siding. The door is different proportion, but the door is going to be similar to this with the size of the mutton bars and the detailing of the door. Here's a close-up of the bracket. Let's see. Sorry if it's a little dark, but you can see the bevel lap siding. It goes all the way up to the underside of the roof deck. This is a little brighter picture of the. I wish that showed better, but it's like red in this like mustard color, and then the necessity of having tie-down brackets, he painted them all black, so we're going to express the details again. That's a typical of arts and crafts style architecture. In this one, I don't know if you can make out, but 2x10 barge rafter, and then 2x8 for all the common rafters. This is a picture of their existing standing seam metal roof. It's sorry, it's a little blurry, but this is another project on Central. Same color roof, again, low profile, maybe an inch if that, and they're 16 inches on center. And it's a galvalume finish. This is a close-up of the door, the existing door, and we're going to, this panel will just be higher so that this will be the different proportions that's shown in the elevations, but you can see how the size of the casing, the drip cap, a little bit of overhang here, and then how the, basically the, this water table just is truncated right there at this edge of the casing. And then we're going to go with the sort of a arts and crafts, dark bronze, heavy sort of hardware, again, to go with the style of the architecture. The fence is just going to remain, and it's going to be modified as necessary, so it will just match existing. This I wanted to point out because it has some interesting details. This is a few streets down on Comanche, but it has the ribbon driveway that has the ribbons that go up to the garage doors, but then it has gravel between in all these areas that you don't drive. And then because you're sloping up, they built this 8-inch wall, or short little retaining wall, and then again they had gravel there, and then they have a little walking path right there. So we're picking up on that same sort of details, a very nice detail. And that's what's depicted in the site plan. This is an arts and crafts bungalow that's on the corner of Mohawk and Seminole. And this garage was modified a couple years ago, and the doors are really nice. They're just, I think they're metal doors, but they're painted like wood. They're just gorgeous, and the proportion and scale of them just look great. They have, you can't really see it here, but they have not an astral, but like a bead that goes down here and the handle. So very nice, and there's actually another door here. This part of this garage sort of steps out. The lighting, again, in keeping with the style of architecture, this is obviously a wall-mounted light from the brass light gallery, but then where we have a pendant light, like at the porch, we're going to have a similar light, but then it's going to be like that. And then let's see, I'm going to let Rob come up and maybe say a few things to supplement whatever I missed. I'm sure he wants to add a few things.
You want me to show the 3D?
Oh, yeah, and we did a 3D model, and in my haste to get everything ready, I didn't print any pictures up of it, so he has it on his phone.
These are going to be blurry. I'm sorry. Of course, I'm showing them on my phone here.
Oh, that's actually pretty good.
So there's from the inner part of the yard. This is from the street, and I guess this would be from basically the southeast, kind of a southeast view. And then this would be kind of from a northeast view.
No, southwest.
Sorry, southwest view.
Yeah. It's like you're standing in a straight line with the alley. Yeah.
And so this is from the northwest, which, so. And then I think this is basically a close-up.
Sort of shows that, it's close-up of the connector. Mm-hmm. Again, showing that, I'm going to use this to point, to show that, well, it doesn't look like it there, but the roofs, the eaves line up there, as well as over here.
Yeah, it's a little blurry, so sorry to say from an email attachment. Okay. So,
talk about the character, the height, style in the house.
Yeah, so my wife and I love the neighborhood. The neighborhood drove us in. We would like to stay here for a very, very long time. It's very important to us to build something that's in character with the house, that really honors it and honors the neighborhood. So we asked Alan to try to do as much as we can to be in harmony with the existing structure. So I think that he's designed something that does that.
No, we designed it.
Well, we did.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So with that, we conclude our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, staff will present the staff report.
Commissioners, staff finds that this application is consistent with the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines. We did not have very many conditions on here. I believe they were all addressed. The materials are pretty straightforward with everything matching the house as best as possible. So with that, staff is satisfied with the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing to any public comment. Seeing none, we'll now move to commissioners being able to ask questions. Starting on my right.
Thank you very much. Sir, please, I would like you to address your site plan And I'd like you to identify for us the, if you will, the run of the current fence and how you plan to make its termination with respect to your addition.
Okay, that's a good question, because I didn't address that. Okay. And so, I don't know how much the camera can zoom in, but I actually have sort of a brown color here. So right now there's a gate right here and the fence that terminates at the corner of the existing house, and it runs south to the property line. And then the fence is going to run along the property line to the west. And then this is where I'm going to have that 8-inch little retaining wall so that the fence can run horizontal. And so that will run back and tie into the corner of the building here. On the back side, we're going to go ahead and probably just have the fence run all the way down here as it already is, and then just put in a little filler panel right here. We can't really have any fence here because we need to maintain views from people exiting the alley there.
And how would this fence run and terminate on, I guess, would be the north property line, or does it?
Well, currently the existing fence runs all the way down here, and Rob, does it run?
It runs all the way across the northern part of the property,
right,
and then terminates.
Yeah, and
it moves south.
Okay, so it runs all the way along this north property line, and I can actually see it here on the survey line. Then it returns back, and it ties in at the corner of the house right here.
And there were a couple of photos.
Okay, yeah, and I had some photos of the.
Yeah,
you have to talk.
I'm sorry.
That's
There
fine.
were a couple of photos of. Was it in yours?
It might have been.
Actually, I think it was in the staff's photos.
Well, let me ask you this: does that answer your question?
Yes,
or do
it
you
does.
want-
Thank you
okay,
very much.
then we're good.
You're not on.
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Neither do I.
I have a bigger philosophical question. So typically when we have an alley behind a property and you have an accessory structure behind the property, the garage doors face the alley. Was that something
Well,
you looked at, or why did we not do that?
The pattern is if it's an internal lot, usually they.
Or is it because it's a corner?
They face the side street,
Mhm.
and that's because it's just a lot easier to enter and exit. And I think almost every corner house that I know of in Seminole Heights, it enters from the side street because it's just easier to negotiate that way. Because if you have, say, the lot to the north of this property, if they wanted to do an accessory structure, they would have to have 24 feet of backup space, which is something transportation requires. So it gets a little hard to maneuver. But I think Elaine had shown directly across the street that that house has the same pattern where the garage doors face the side street.
Okay. Can I just confirm with staff that is the pattern? I guess I haven't seen a corner one.
Yes, Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation staff. Absolutely, we've actually did a sort of a study on this a couple of years ago to see how many, I guess, houses in Seminole Heights had their
Garage facing
parking,
the
yeah,
street.
facing the access from the side street or from the alley or from the front, and the majority of them were from the side street.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
If we could look at the site plan, I believe you mentioned this in your presentation, but I just want to confirm. So the aprons that we have for the parking, we're showing, I believe it's the 4 ribbons, and
So,
then
yeah, if the camera can maybe just zoom in real close to the area. I don't know how close they can get, but where the pointer is. So, do you want me to just kind of explain it?
Well, let me ask my question
Okay,
real
sure.
quick.
Okay.
So we have the 4 aprons that align, or the 4 ribbons that align to the apron down below, and then it looks like you have 5 strips of gravel with your 8-inch concrete curb. Is there, I'm assuming, is there a sidewalk or anything that apron is tying into, and then how does that kind of transition from the curb interact with that sidewalk?
Okay. Right. So there's currently not a sidewalk. And that's actually something that Tim Keyports, the Neighborhood Association president, had asked about the sidewalk. But I pointed out to him that there's no sidewalk down here, and that even though they may want to do a sidewalk in the future, we're not going to do it here. There's a lot of landscaping here. But in preparation of a future sidewalk, we come out 5 feet here. And so we have that, and we have that before the driveway flares. And then basically we have gravel, concrete, just kind of alternating. So on the outsides we have the gravel. Actually, it's between all the concrete, but we basically have strips for 2 cars to enter.
So I understand the sort of the need for the concrete curb on the right side of the driveway, or plan right. On the left side between the alleyway and the parking, is that curb, is it going to be doing much, I guess is my question?
No, it just contains the gravel here, because your slope, because the garage is required by stormwater to be at least 12 inches above the crown of the road.
Mm-hmm.
So you do end up having a little bit of a slope here. So since the concrete sloping up, it was a way to sort of just kind of contain that and give it sort of a clean termination to the end of this driveway. And it was done in that project that I showed, and there's a couple other houses in the neighborhood as well where it has been done.
Okay.
It's a nice clean detail.
And then I can clearly see that you've enjoyed detailing and designing this project. It's very visible. Typically, the accessory structures are not as detailed as the primary structure. They're usually a little bit more simple in form, shape, detail, massing. I would go so far to argue that the accessory structure may be even more detailed in some areas than the existing house. Understanding that you're pulling a lot of the same elements, but a lot of that kind of ties back into the porch detail, that some of those elements are on the house and then a lot of them are not. Did you look at a way to where, following a typical historical pattern, your accessory structure was not, it wasn't more detailed than the house?
Yeah, and I knew that was going to come up because that is one of the Secretary of Standards criteria. And I guess there's 2 parts to my answer. The first one is a lot of it's client driven. When the client wants a highly detailed building, it becomes a gem in the neighborhood. And I understand the concerns about it overshadowing the primary structure. And I think that's why the massing is so important on this, because if we would have done a highly detailed 2-story building, then it would really overshadow the house. But we feel like by having that first floor sort of tie in with the existing house, it sort of helps offset that a little bit. And then also, I designed a cigar warehouse in Ybor City for the Fuente family. And one of the criticisms they had with that was that, it's highly detailed, and we need to differentiate new from existing. But the clients, with it being cigars and they heavily detail their buildings, they saw it as a decorated cigar box, basically. So, but just because of the old has a lot of imperfections, a lot of patina, the windows are different. You naturally can differentiate new from the existing. And I'm not sure if Rob wants to, or Amber, come on. I need reinforcements from my clients on this one.
Thank you. So I bought the house in 2005, and I looked at about 30 houses in Seminole Heights before choosing this one. And I actually feel like the photos don't do justice to the detail that's on the exterior of the house and that's inside the house, in terms of and I don't know all the proper names, but all the Rafter Tails and the brackets, the drip cap and the skirting, French doors coming off of the dining area, and like the small side porch there, plus a lot of extra details that are inside this house that are not in a lot of the other houses in Seminole Heights, in terms of the built-ins and like the molding over the doors and all the windows and things in the house. So I don't know, it maybe sounds grandiose to say, but I think it's a really special house in the neighborhood, and I looked at a lot before choosing it. So I feel like that the photos actually don't quite do that justice. So I guess that's part of the thinking about the detail with the accessory building, is that the house actually has quite a bit of detail as well. So thank you.
Thank you. My only last question about the details is, knowing that we obviously don't review the financial side of this, if the cost of doing the details and the addition to this kind of go beyond the budget, is there a plan in place to maybe not make the addition, or to remove specific detail features to where it still keeps it aligned with the building and the house, but not drastically change it?
Okay, well, probably without going into too much, Rob is very handy, and so he's planning on hiring a contractor to build the shell, and then he's going to be doing a lot of the details himself. The only thing I can say beyond that to address your point is, if there are any changes, we'll know about it, and we'll have to address it with staff, because Amenta Owen comes out regularly to inspect during the regular construction of inspections. She comes out basically at every inspection to make sure that it's conforming. And if we have to change something, we'll talk it over with staff. But Rob and Amber are pretty devoted people to the neighborhood and this house, so I can't really see that happening, to be honest. It might take them a little time, but they really they're doing this for themselves, obviously, but they're also doing it for the neighborhood as well.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Okay.
Can you tell us about the moon?
The moon door?
On the door?
I forgot that, yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that. That was just like a little playful, whimsical thing, yeah.
You just wanted a moon?
Yeah.
Of course.
Well,
It's where it belongs.
Because bathrooms, like old outhouses had a moon on it. I mean, it's a pool cabana bathroom, right? So, yeah, it is kind of playful. I thought it was kind of a nice touch.
I do have one additional site plan question, and it dovetails to your mechanical equipment within the addition. Where do you plan on placing your condensing unit?
That is a good question, and I did not specifically address that on these drawings, but I'll tell you how we plan to do it. Currently, the refrigerant lines for the main house run in here, but the condensing unit is out here, and then they run underground to the house. So what I would imagine that Rob is going to do is, we're going to have the condensing unit somewhere in this area, and it's going to be behind the fence, the rear yard fence, and it'll sort of be out of view to the backyard, and it's close enough to the house that we can run, the line. So to answer your question, this is where the air conditioning equipment's going to be.
Thank you.
Are there any additional comments? All right. The applicant is allowed 5 minutes for any rebuttal.
I think we're good. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. At this point, we're going to be closing this portion of the public hearing, and the commissioners can now discuss the case. Would anyone like to start?
I think it's a nice design. It is very detailed, but it's a big structure, so I think it's appropriate. And I think the part that is the most detailed faces inside their lot and not to the street. So I was okay with the level of detail.
Okay.
There is a robust quality to the detailing on this addition, and it follows through on from the existing house itself. Perhaps we're taken for a loop a little bit on this. Normally, we're looking at properties and projects that have a certain delicateness to it. Here, the existing house is robust, which is kind of unusual, not unheard of, but it's unusual, and they're following through through this particular addition. I don't think there's going to be any discrepancy between what is old and what is new. There is a freshness to the addition that doesn't have the patina of the existing. The addition is 2-story, the existing is 1 story, or a story and a half, if you really but they're neatly tied together. The other thing that we don't really see very much with respect to this presentation is a very ornate, not ornate, but a very well detailed fence that really surrounds a large portion of this yard, and will do a tremendous amount of screening from the general public for a lot of this material that we see here happening on the ground floor. So basically, you're looking at, in some respect, these two silver sails above the greenery and the fence for the most part, because that's the part that poodles actually see from the public side.
Anything else?
It's also unusual that we see the accessory structure aligned with the main rather than set back.
I think it's a corner lot. It's there.
Yeah. It's a lot.
I kind of like it.
I think it's a nice job.
There's a neatness to it.
Yeah,
Clean.
I would like to say just overall, it's nice to see not only the drawings and the details match for the level of the house. I think it's also nice to see owners that are excited about doing this and kind of moving in that direction. You can really see where this house is going. So I appreciate that.
Make a motion?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 20-96 for the property located at 6002 North Central Avenue, because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Seminole Heights Historic District Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons: that the siting of the addition, the proportions, and the materials are consistent with the Seminole Heights Historic District.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye. All those against? Motion passes. Thank you.
We take a 2-minute break.
I think we're going to take a short 5-minute recess. Thank you. guess, re-adjourn from break.
Okay. I think so.
All right. You can go ahead and present the next case. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. This next case and the last one on our agenda tonight is case number ARC 20-98 at 2802 North Central Court in the Tampa Heights Historic District. This application is for new construction of a single-family residence with site improvements. Before I go into the photo essay, I would like to note that the owners are not the prior owner is listed on your staff report there and on our documents. The current owners, David and Jamie Seal, did purchase the property in December of 2019. It takes a little bit for some of our systems to sort of catch up with that documentation there, and we do have a copy of the deed. As well. So, let's see. Looking at the map of the historic district, you can see the subject property there in green. This particular street, this is Central Court, which is a very short street. It's just a few parcels deep. It's a little blurry, but it's it runs parallel to Central Avenue, and there's only about, let's say, I think 4 parcels that front on it. So this is the 1920 Sanborn map of that area. The street that is just to the south of Central Court is Gladys Street there, and so that's Central Court is in between Central Avenue and Jefferson Street, north of Gladys and south of Robles. And then this is the present-day aerial of the subject property. You can see that it is currently vacant, as is the land to the north, and there is a historic property on this block, just one, however. So this is the subject site. And across, actually this is to the south, this would be the house facing Gladys Street, the side of it. So this is the parcel directly to the south. And then to the north is another vacant lot. Across the street is a non-contributing, non-historic structure. And this is the view looking north along Central Court. You can see that it sort of dead ends into the rear of another property. This is the view looking south on Central Court toward Gladys. It's a very narrow brick street. And since it's a vacant lot, that is basically the photo presentation. So if you have any other concerns about that, we'll see if we can address them later. But at this time, I'll have the applicant come forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Alan Dobbs, the agent for the new owners of this property, David and Jaime Seal. They just had their second child, so they're looking to build a house for their growing family. And they really like Tampa Heights, and they were real close to buying another house in Tampa Heights. The deal sort of fell through. And then they approached me about designing a new house. And so I gave them examples of projects I've done in the past, and they saw one of my houses, and they said, "Oh, we want that house." And I said, "Well, that was a custom house. I can't just redesign that house." But I said, "I'll talk to the owners," and so the owners were open to that, as long as it wasn't built in Seminole Heights where the other house is. So this house is similar to that one. So some of the photos that I'll show you are actually of that other house. So there's a lot of very similar details, but some of the details were sort of modified to fit Tampa Heights a little bit better. For example, the other one was more sort of arts and crafts. It had that flared skirt, the heavy water table like that previous project. That was taken out. We're doing corner boards and just things like that. The columns, instead of having the real heavy craftsman style columns, we're doing multiple smaller columns instead. So little details like that, but they loved the overall form of the house and the layout. They even went to go visit the house, so that was really good that they could do that. So so basically, I'll start with the site plan. I'll wait till the camera gets on it. Okay. So it's a fairly straightforward lot, 60 foot wide. So usually 60 foot wide lots, you can get a porte cochere, which is a nice feature, very common in all of Tampa's historic neighborhoods. As Elaine mentioned, the street is kind of narrow. It has those asphalt brick pavers and concrete curves. So all that's going to remain except where we modify it to do a curb cut. And so we're going to do the concrete ribbons to a porte cochere. The house pretty much goes from setback to setback, but we justified it to this southern property line here. This is where all the mechanical equipment and sort of service side of the house is, and then this is more like a side yard, with the drive-through. The original application had an accessory building, but when my client started talking to contractors, they decided to not do it. Fortunately, they're going to use the same contractor that built the other one, so they're able to get some pretty accurate pricing pretty quickly. And so, it has a partial width front porch. This part, which is a bedroom, it steps forward about 4 feet. The two required parking spaces are one in the porte cochere and then one with just a driveway that extends 18 feet past the back of the porte cochere. And then we have a little recessed side entry here. And then on the back, we have a porch that's sort of bumped out on this side because the kitchen is right here. So this is more of a dining porch, and then this is more of a standard 8-foot deep porch. And other than that, there's a lot of trees that are like male mulberry trees, so they're not protected, so we're taking those out. So fortunately, there's no oaks or protected trees that we have to sort of work around, with this house. The last thing I'll kind of mention is we just have the scored brick or scored concrete sidewalk that comes up and then flares out at the end to some welcome walls on either side of these columns, which you'll see in the floor plan. I did this a little bit differently. I stacked the floor plans because it's a little easier that way, and plus I could fit all three on one sheet. So in these floor plans, north is actually up, so that kind of helps orient to the site plan as well. So you can, I don't know if the camera can zoom in here. So you have a very sizable front porch with steps that step down to the porte cochere. These are 2-foot square column bases with 3 6x6 columns on each corner, but then 2 in the middle. One of the nice things about doing this is, you always want your column to line on your beam. So when you have your 6-inch wide columns, you have a 6-inch wide beam. So it's a really nice historic detail there, and there are examples of that in Tampa's historic neighborhoods. Anyway, so you have, the front door centered on the steps that have welcome walls on either side, and then the layout is, like most houses nowadays, has all the living space in the back, off the back porch, and then this is that side entry I talked about. Before we had a smaller opening here, but they wanted it more open, so we have some steps and some like benches on either side that open into a utility room. But you'll see how that looks on the elevation. And then just a series of French doors and windows on the back. We're going to have a direct vent fireplace. They don't want to have a gas fireplace, and also we have problems if we take a chimney on up. And I think there was a little bit of discussion on that, but that was allowed because it's on the back of the house. And there's where the air conditioning unit is. On the second floor, it's kind of like a 1.5 story, so we step in, kind of similar to that previous project. Then the other one had the master suite back here, but they wanted the kids' bedrooms back here, so these are 2 bedrooms. We kept the bump out, so that's like a little study nook on the back. It adds some, we see the elevations, having that little bump out adds some nice detail so you don't get this real big plain gable end on the back. And then where the stairs and the laundry area are below, this bumps out here on either side with the gable end facing the side yards. And then they wanted their master in the front, so we reconfigured that, and then the master bath was reconfigured as well. But then you see all the roof for the porch down below. You have a gable, front-facing gable here. You have a side-facing gable for the porte-cochere, which is very common. And then you have the main upper gable that comes down, and then to resolve this sort of connection here, which you can see in the photographs of the house. So on the elevations, we're going to have brick piers, 24-inch, and then we're going to have the 6x6 columns, but because they're kind of tall and skinny, because they wanted, 10-foot ceilings on the inside of the house. We have this little horizontal detail to kind of break down the scale. And I've seen that detail again in some of the historic homes in Tampa, and we pick up that same detail on the back porch, which you'll see. But with the horizontal detailing here and the brackets and the venting, the shingles on the gable end, all that similar to the other house that we did. However, this house is going to have 5B crimp metal roof. That's very common in Tampa Heights. Actually, I think it's more common in Tampa Heights than it is in Seminole Heights or Hyde Park. And then also with this house, we're having corner boards. The other house, we didn't have corner boards, and we had a flared skirt. So here we just come down to a smaller water table, and then we have the piers and then the foundation vents. We're using smooth, hardy siding, small 4.5-inch exposure, aluminum clad wood windows. I have a window sample here. 2x6 rafter tails, just simple plumb cut rafter tails. You'll see those in the wall section, and then sort of this little flared detail at the end where the rafter tails are put in at the 4 and 12, but the trusses are at 6 and 12. So it gives you that double pitch, but it adds a nice little detail on the gable end. And then and then these brackets here, which I have some pictures of those. So on the rear of the house, this little bump out area, which you saw on the floor plan, is where the little study nook is. So it sort of added a little detail to the rear of the house. And it just has a simple shed roof, again, with the 5B crimp metal roof. And then you have the lower porch roof below. And then on the porch, you have the 6x6 columns, just the same as in the front, but they continue all the way down to a concrete slab that we have like a 4-inch lip on the end. It will have a little raised or softened edge to it, and then we'll have the brick skirting that will match the brick on the porte-cochere columns. And then because we have these horizontal 6x6 sitting rails, they need a little support in the middle, so we're just picking up something that's similar to the columns for that, and then just a simple wood steps with some railings on either side. The side elevation is you see the porch on the side. The windows are sort of responding to what's happening on the inside. but most of these are like a series of casements, single hungs, and then these are a little bit different. These are French casements so that we don't have to they're better for egress. You get a nicer proportioned window, but since they've opened kind of like French doors, you meet the egress requirement for the bedroom there. And then again, you see the side porch right there. I think, I didn't mention the other elevation on the side. Yeah, I forgot to talk about this elevation. This is the one with the porte cochere, which you can see the side gable, and then this is the same gable with the window that matches the other side of the house. And then this is that sort of recessed entry with sort of a craftsman style door, which is similar to the front door. These are windows on either side of or in the kitchen, and then again you see the back porch with the rear facing gable here, and then that's the concrete porch with the brick below. So I guess I'll start with the porch column and porte cochere column. So they're basically 16-inch CMU with 4-inch brick veneer, has a concrete cap, and then has a 6x6 column. The columns are fairly simple. They just have like an 1.5-inch base with the cove molding at the top and bottom. And then they have this little horizontal piece. I probably should have shown that in section right here, but anyways, and then you have the porch beam with like a bed molding here. This is where you have the shingles on the gable end. This is the trim that sort of aligns with the bracket so that you have the vent above, and then you have the shingles here, and then you have this other trim that lines up with this bracket here. Frank Lloyd Wright regulating lines were a really important thing, so I always try and get things to line up wherever possible. It's just a good design practice. Anyway, so that's the porch. Oh, and then a wood floor for the porch. Then the typical wall section is this house is going to be on piers. The other one was a continuous stem wall, and then we're going to have our foundation vent enclosures, which is basically just some wood lattice. It's not going to be the diagonal lattice. It's going to be the vertical, which was shown on the elevations. You have that band with the smaller water table that runs around for the base of the siding on the exterior walls, and then you have your windows with the relatively high head height, 10-foot ceilings, 2x6 frame exterior walls. Most of the roof and floor structure is all engineered trusses, but then we do 2x6 rafter tails, and that allows us to sort of pivot it off the top plate. And then we can add 3/4-inch finish soffit here, and then the plywood just continues and goes down on top, so you have a thicker nailing surface for the finished roof deck. And then plumb cut rafter tails. 2x6 second floor walls, and then the same thing, detail here is here. And then, as I mentioned before, typical roof is a 5B crimp metal roof. That's a note that I modified from, I think, the drawings that y'all were looking at. And then the last couple drawings are, again, these are the window details with larger sill, 1/4-inch, quarter round, where the siding meets the sill, subsill, and the thicker side and head casing. Again, you'll see that in the pictures, and then you see how it sort of looks in elevation here. The last section here is the rear porch section. This sort of shows what's happening at the gable. Again, you have those bands where this is the vent, and then you have the corbelled brackets. This is actually a section taken through that little bump out, so that's just a simple shed roof, 4 and 12 to match the lower pitch roof here. This roof detail is the same as the typical wall section, and again, this detail at the rear porch shows the 6x6 with the sitting rail, and you can kind of see it ghosted beyond. So we have the 3 at the corner, so you sort of see these beyond. I had to kind of break this to get to fit on a sheet, so the vertical scale is a little bit off, but it's 10 feet first floor, and then 8 feet for the second floor. And then the last thing here is we have concrete. They wanted concrete and not wood on the back, just so it'd be a lot more durable. And then also, you know, it's western exposure, and so it gets a lot more sun. So we did that, and then, but then we work it out where we have a brick foundation wall there. So in regards to precedent and details, I have some pictures here. This is probably not a good example because of the way they painted the columns, but this is a house in Seminole Heights where it's actually 3 columns, but I think they came in after the fact and panelized them so they don't look right, but it's 3 columns, 2, and then 3. So this house is going to look like this house. So that we're using the same sort of, it's kind of like a vertically scored brick for all the columns. We have these small welcome walls. We have the concrete steps. We have in this case, we have another pier here with columns, which is different, but it kind of lines up with the rhythm of the brackets here. And then you sort of see how the gable ends and the rafter tails sort of all work, and then the beam. And then here's another view of the house. So you see this corner, how the roofs sort of resolve themselves. So this is sort of like the ridge for the first floor, and then you have the upper ridge. But then, you know, I didn't want a gable here. It just resolved better to have this as a you know, this sort of Boston hip detail here. But again, all the consistent details throughout. We're not doing the flared skirt, and we have corner boards instead, but the window details are the same. And Hyde Park typically, I mean, Tampa Heights typically has a little more elaborate trim around some of the windows. I think Seminole Heights was a little more economy neighborhood in the day, whereas Tampa Heights had some homes with nicer trim and detail. This is just shows a little detail of how the siding goes all the way up to the underside of the roof deck, and then you have the sort of beadboard soffit, exposed rafter tails, and you can kind of see the underside of the gable in there. This is what we're using for the front door. Is again, I thought that with the style of the house, even though it's a little less arts and crafts, we still felt an arts and crafts style door is appropriate style, fitting style, as opposed to more of a generic colonial style door. But then it sort of has the craftsman style hardware, has the dark color, it has the bird ledge, and all that kind of stuff. And you can you know, see the sort of head detail. Their house numbers are pretty obvious there. A little closer up picture of the door hardware is more of a, you know, sort of craftsman style hardware. This is a picture of the porte cochere, and let's see. As far as the lighting goes, I don't know why there's 2 of them, but the pendant lights are going to be this sort of style here, period appropriate, with dark bronze sort of match the, you know, the door hardware. And then everybody wants ceiling fans on their back porches, so we're going to have ceiling fans like that, and then you can kind of see the rhythm of them, where this is the dining porch here, and then this is the porch off the living room here, so there's 2 there. But here you can see these were 6x6 columns, but there's going to be more of them on this house. This shows sort of the detail of how you get that flare, because that's not a 2x6, but a 2x8 barge rafter. And then they just cut a little triangular piece there, and then they do their 1-inch overhang or so there, so that the end of this doesn't rot out with water running down it. Unlike, and this is sort of a public service thing because this really bothers me. This is a house in Seminole Heights, has a very small overhang, small brackets. It's sort of an arts craft style. All these things are like rotting away because they weren't flashed or built properly. No, we do, I'm gonna skip the fence. I brought a picture of a fence, but we do not have a fence on the site plan, and my clients right now are not doing a fence, but if we do, then we'll work it out with staff. And then there's some places on the exterior of the house where we're not gonna have a pendant light, so in that case, we're gonna have a surface mounted light, like on the front porch or something, or the porch chair. Well, the porch chair has the hanging one, but then on the front porch, we had the surface mounted one. Sorry, these were kind of out of order. This is what happens when you don't build it correctly. These hip rafters don't line up with the corner, and they did 2 of them, and they're all sort of rotting. They didn't do a 1x2 there so that all the water runs down. And I don't have a sample of the 5E crimp metal roof. We're then going to do the Galvalume, but this is a house in Seminole Heights that has a Galvalume roof, but you know they're all over Tampa Heights. The Galvalume is probably the most common color, and this is a little closer up detail of the Galvalume. You know, then they have the hip bridge cap there. This is a good example of the windows and why it's important to use the right proportion trim, because this is actually Hardy Artisan, which is thicker than regular Hardy, so you get much more of a reveal here, which is important detail, and then the sill extends past and then out, but that's a nice heavy sill there. And then and that's how the whole window looks. And then this is actually the builder, so we're going to maybe come up with a joint cartouche and stamp the sidewalk. Start that tradition again. So the window sample, I guess, Rob, can you help me with the window? I got it. So this one, sorry, which side? Okay. So this window is called the, it's by Sierra Pacific, it's called an H3, and the H is for hybrid, and the 3 is because it uses 3 different materials. The first is it uses aluminum cladding on all the sashes here. The profile of the mutton bars are historic, and then aluminum cladding here. It has vinyl for the liners, and then the inside is wood. That window that I showed you was used in that house that I just showed you, and it's a pretty common window now with some of the newer homes. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, staff will present the staff report.
Commissioners, staff finds that this application is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines. I had one of the conditions I wanted to make sure is going to show up on the plans when they come to permitting, and that's that the parking area, the designated parking area, should start at the body of the building and continue beyond that. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Aside from that, I have no further comments, so I'm available for questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Seeing no public here today, we'll move to the commissioners asking questions about the project. Would anyone like to start?
I just wish to make a comment that this seems to be a well-conceived dwelling as a project.
Can I see the front elevation real quick? I just wanted to see it one more time. No questions, that's fine.
No questions. I don't have any questions. The only thing I saw, which is totally irrelevant, is that if you were to widen the little nooks in the guest bedrooms, you might be able to extend those closets to the exterior wall. But it's totally irrelevant for our conversation. Just something to think about.
I know, but I'm always open to good design criticism.
No, No, it's not a criticism, it's just an opportunity.
Are you talking about this here?
Yeah.
Okay.
It looked like you had enough space on your rear elevation that they might be able to extend, and then you run those closets all the way to that exterior wall.
I would just have bigger closets.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Okay.
it looks great. Thank you.
So you mentioned on the site plan that there is not going to be a fence. But you did mention that the AC unit will be located on the, I believe, the south side of the house. What strategy are you going to use to hide the AC unit?
Yeah, I know that's something that the board routinely asks about. Yeah, we have the air conditioning unit here. I don't really know what to say other than when they go to do a fence, which they most likely will because they have kids and they'll want them to run around in the backyard. So if the board is acceptable, I'd like to maybe work that out with staff as far as what we do. I mean, I could say right now we could just put like a little 3-foot screen wall around it, or do some landscaping to screen it, which, you know, if the board issues that as a condition, then we're perfectly fine with that.
Okay. And it was brought up by staff to have the parking to continue beyond the body of the house. I wanted to make sure you had time to.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to clarify that because typically a porte cochere is, you know, that's the front facade of your house, and on your front setback. But if staff or transportation is saying that we need more parking, then yeah, we will go ahead and extend this driveway 18 feet, and we're fine to make it if it's a condition of the board. Originally, the application had an accessory building in the back, but because of budget reasons, we took it out. So, yeah, if we need to extend this driveway based on staff's recommendations, we're okay to do that.
Yes, the, Elaine Lund with city staff, the way the design guidelines read for the, you know, the parking in the historic district is that it should not be in the front of the building. So really to determine, I'd have to make sure we sit down and look closely with our staff and zoning to make sure we can determine where that front yard setback truly is on this particular building. So that is something we'll take a very close look at and make sure we have correct at the time they come in for construction permitting.
Okay. I only have one additional question. It's maybe more of a personal kind of comment that maybe I want the commissioners to ask additional questions for as well if they do. The second floor on the level, you have the nooks that come out. And you have sort of a bump out on the second floor that's like a shed roof that you described. I understand where you're using your hardy shingles on other areas, sort of in the top parts of your gables or near the vents. But that does seem like, just in my opinion, a little out of place. So if you're looking at the camera, could go up to the top image. Thank you. It seems a little out of place with the rest of the house. And I wasn't sure what my fellow commissioners felt.
I don't mind it. It's not the front of the house, so I don't know. Like, you would prefer to have another gable end for the vent?
I don't know if it's another gable end or I'm kind of struggling because I understand form-wise why it's the way that it is and the shape that it is. I don't know if it's the material that's throwing me off. I don't know if it's the roof line. It might just be my opinion. But I was just curious what anyone else thought.
I think it's the material as a designation that's throwing you off, because there's a very strong verticality to shingle type items like that as opposed to the clapboard that's the rest of the building. What I find consistent here is that this is if you will, a shed type upper level protrusion for the building, whether it's related to a gable or a roof-type structure that we would see in other buildings in other districts. These kinds of elements typically have a materiality that's different than the main body of the building, whether it be stucco or shingled of this nature, or even a couple of different things for that matter. So that difference here, because of the nature of its grafting on to the surface of the building, being of a different material finish than the main body of the building, doesn't really bother me.
Okay.
Now, if you painted a different color, that might be a different issue.
Okay. I have no further questions. Does anyone have any additional comments?
I do have one question. Please refresh my memory, please. In the living room, main great room, you have a built-in with a fireplace element. What is happening with that fireplace as an element in terms of what's happening on the exterior of the building? Do we have a flue going somewhere?
No, it's actually, if they choose to do a fireplace, which is what we're proposing, is that it would be a direct vent. So it would basically be like a 12 by 12 square on the side of the building, but because it's way back in the back and it's on the side yard, we figured that would be okay, and it was allowed on the previous one, so we didn't think it would be an issue.
It'd be like a through-wall thimble type thing.
Excuse me?
It'd be like a through-wall thimble.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Yeah, I think you can see it on his
Yeah,
elevation.
there was like a circle on the side
Yep.
elevation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Any additional comments? Okay, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for any rebuttal.
I think the only thing I'd address is Elaine, what she said. I think I'll actually support her argument, which would be kind of funny. So porte cochere literally means a porch for a car. Porte being porch and then cochere for a car. So they're meant to be an extension of the porch where you drive through. That's very different than a carport, which literally is port for a car. That's where you park. And so I agree that, perhaps we should go ahead and extend the driveway so that the porte cochere is not part of our parking requirement. And that will just help them when they go to do their accessory building. They'll have that much less driveway to do later.
Thank you. At this point, we will close the public hearing, and then the commissioners can discuss the case.
It seems like we have two conditions: screen the air handler and work with staff to extend the driveway if required.
I would agree.
Yep.
I will move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing, an ARC 20-98 for the property located at 2802 North Central Court with the following conditions: that the applicant screen the air handler and work with staff to extend the driveway if required. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights Historic District Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa. Because the building proportions, materials, and siting are consistent with the surrounding properties.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
That's what I say.